Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with John Tortorelli, Andrew Velez, and Joe Dehls. And this is episode 449. In this episode, it will be a mixture of NBA and NFL talk. We'll talk about Mark Daigneault being the all-star head coach and talk about OKC because they have the best record right now in the NBA and in the Western Conference. We're also going to talk about the Hornets and the Pelicans because they're both on win streaks and who's more likely to get back into the play-in race. And then for the NFL, we got to talk about your boy Lamar Jackson. Oh, you know that's coming. You thought you're gonna duck that, didn't you? Oh no, that's coming for sure. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson for sure.
You know, I just noticed you never introduced yourself.
I didn't?
No.
I thought I did.
Does he say
He
I'm
usually
Joel Moran?
does. I'm Joel Moran, and I'm here with.
Did he say it today? Did I just miss that?
I don't know, bro. Honestly, it's so routine for me that
honestly,
I
I
don't even think
thought
about
you
it.
always just said.
I literally just
not
wait
yourself.
for him to say Andrew Velez so I can point at the camera.
Maybe you do, and I just missed it. It's
Maybe.
possible.
It is possible.
The blueprint is I'm Joel Moran, and I am here with.
That's a fact.
If
Yeah.
I didn't say
But
that,
maybe
then
this
it would
time
be
you
the
didn't say
first.
it. I could just be tweaking.
I'm going to go off what history has shown me and say you're tweaking.
My name is Joel Moran. Yeah, probably.
Maybe it's just so wrapped up in the Lamar Jackson stuff. You know?
Maybe, yeah. I was
Your
not.
head's in the
I
right
was not expecting
space.
a fucking PowerPoint slide of all of Lamar Jackson's wrongdoings when I looked at Instagram
Here's
a
the
few
thing.
hours ago.
I'm going to agree with Joel today.
That's crazy.
That being said, it's going to be hard for me to gloss over the fact that he is flip-flopping so terribly bad on Lamar Jackson.
It's just unbiased.
It's who he is. It's who he is.
I'm unbiased.
That's why, it doesn't faze me. Because when he was praising Lamar Jackson a couple months ago, I was not like, oh, let's go, Joel. Finally, you saw the light. Because I knew this day was going to come.
John,
I knew it.
You knew they
Why-
wasn't winning a championship this year, is what you're saying?
Huh?
You can't even allow John to try and.
I don't give a fuck
Yeah,
about
literally,
this guy. I really
John,
don't care at all.
why was I
See, like him
praising
going to John, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly.
No,
It
because
makes
he's
sense.
level-headed right here in this.
No, he's
he's
not.
the
Yes,
Steelers fan. Very
Like,
level-headed.
come on.
John,
He showed up to
John,
one live stream this year.
John,
The
why?
Ravens lost. That's the
No,
only
that's
one.
crazy. Hold up. Did he want to join from the stadium? Like, for real
Yes,
talk.
yes.
I couldn't.
Yes, John.
I was doing the walk of shame back
we
from a
had
road
somebody.
playoff loss.
We had
That's what I was
somebody
doing.
at the
Respect John.
game. We had somebody at the game
Yeah,
could have
you
gave us
coulda waited.
the absolute up close and personal information on what we're right and what we're wrong. And you're like, oh, sorry, man, I couldn't join.
No, that's not what happened. Stand at the stadium, probably not going to be there for another 25 minutes.
Could have waited.
You didn't?
You should have told us.
Have you ever been at stadiums in a signal there, Dehls? Give John a break.
No. I said he could have got back to his hotel room wherever he was staying.
That traffic is crazy.
He said he'll be back in 20
No,
minutes.
let me ask you, John. If you don't you praise a player when they're playing well?
I praise Lamar is playing
You
wonderful in the regular
called
season.
Mahomes the MVP this year, and he was
He had the most game-winning drives in the NFL.
pretty fucking average for Mahomes'
He wasn't
standard.
average.
These
He was top 10
game-winning
in
For
drives.
Mahomes' standard.
These game-winning drives. The Chiefs finally cracked 17 points. Game-winning drive.
And what was Lamar Jackson for Lamar Jackson standards in this past game versus the Bills?
Underwhelming.
No, for
Lamar
Lamar
Jackson
Jackson
standards,
standards in the playoffs.
Underwhelming.
Wait, no. If we're talking about Lamar Jackson standard in the playoff, this was a good game.
I thought it was medium.
No, if we're going off what he's given us in the past, which has been a lot of dog shit.
It's just really
This
his
was a good
early in his
performance.
career. The last 2 years, he's been pretty damn good.
Well, I mean, last year against
it's
KC,
3
he
games,
wasn't
4
that
games.
good.
Huh?
He really wasn't that good
Pass
against
rating over
KC.
100.
Against KC?
He did.
So
No, he
passer
did
ratings
not.
over 100.
That's
Move
cap.
him now.
That is
Hey,
cap.
Joel, don't worry about it. Passer ratings over 100 now. Move him. So Jalen Hurts, all this shit that you've been talking about him, even though almost damn near every single game he's played has over 100 passer rating. Got it.
I might have
Doesn't
capped.
matter.
It might have been like that'd be the one game.
The
under
last
100.
3 games he's had 100 passer rating for sure. No, against
All right, so
KC,
that's-
he had a 75.5
My
passer rating.
apologies. three out of the 4 was 100 plus. I thought that was the one that was.
Yeah, when he's not facing Josh Allen or Mahomes. Well, against
Well,
the
against
Bills.
Josh Allen, he did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Don't
right.
get it twisted.
Right.
I'm gonna say this. What kills me
Okay.
more than anything, Joel loves to mention the Zay Flowers fumble, but hates to mention the Lamar Jackson triple coverage INT.
That was egregious.
That throw was dog shit.
Didn't lead to points. I don't care.
Yeah, we'll talk
Didn't
about
matter.
that.
Game
though.
was over. Didn't lead
Didn't
to
points.
points. I'm not even talking about this
Didn't lead to
game.
points. Oh, I don't know if it led to points. I don't remember. The KC
So the game was over. He threw that INT. The game was wraps.
No.
What I noticed is that you can't praise somebody, you can't be critical of them without being called a flip flop. But
I
it's
know.
happening different moments.
Bro,
You
you're
don't gotta tell
literally-
me, bro.
You said this is the
You
year
don't gotta tell
Lamar
me.
Jackson gets over the hump.
And I was
They're
wrong.
winning the Super Bowl. But now it's back on. He sucks.
He
and
had
I'm
2
using
turnovers in
hyperbole.
the first half.
Listen, you're not going to get pushback from me here. I'm not going to say Lamar Jackson was amazing, but when you needed him, he was there.
You needed him the entire game.
He's the reason they found themselves in a hole 14-7 with that fumble, which set up Buffalo perfectly.
Yeah, but then we also can't forget the little ticky-tack BS pass interference, which, hey, that's not going to make...
Let that be the Chiefs. It's a different story, man.
I don't know.
Let that be
Josh
the
Allen.
Chiefs.
Josh Allen for sure gets his fair share of calls.
No, 100% he does.
I'm not sitting here either.
He likes to flop a
The
little bit,
media
too.
doesn't overblow it like they do with the Chiefs,
It's
though.
because they don't win, so who cares? That's the truth.
Listen,
I really don't know.
And I'm
I
here
think-
being... that's a biased statement right there.
I think I'm rooting
Or
for the
excuse me,
Chiefs.
that's a non-biased statement right there. I acknowledge that the Chiefs win, so people are going to be on their body more so than others, and that's the truth.
I'm rooting for the Chiefs.
Okay, so we just
Insane.
got breaking news on this podcast, and the breaking news is that the Phoenix Suns are trading their 2031 unprotected first-round pick to the Utah Jazz for 3 first-round picks, sources tell ESPN. The Suns are acquiring the least favorable first in 2025 of Cleveland and Minnesota, 2027 of Cleveland and Minnesota and Utah, and 2029 of Cleveland, Minnesota, and Utah. So basically, the Jazz traded 3 first-round picks that might not be high picks for a pick
Potential.
later in the future for the Suns that might be a very high pick.
I understand the logic here, but all this means to me is 2 things. The Suns GM trusts himself to draft extremely well. Oh, Ryan Dunn, great pick. Really
James
loved
Jones
it.
is mainly cooked in the draft.
So
yeah.
that's something to look at, but then you're giving up an unprotected, which 2031?
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now,
6
an 8th
years old.
grader, that could be a great pick. It could be. Who knows the future of the Suns right now?
Well, Riv is putting the context clues together, and he thinks that it's because Jimmy Butler will go to the Suns. That's not been reported. It's not like a done deal or anything.
He's
but
guessing.
He's guessing that Jimmy Butler is going to be a Sun because of the first-round picks that they just acquired.
If you're the Heat, would you rather have those 3 picks that are probably going to be Cleveland's or Minnesota's least favorable, right? So it's going to be the worst out of the picks, right?
Yep.
Cleveland, one of them was this year, right? 2025, 27, 25, 29. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it
So,
was
yeah, I mean,
2025, 2027,
That Cleveland pick is
2029.
probably going to be picked fucking 30 or 29 because they're going to have the best or second best record in the league. Then 2027, I guess it. Yeah, I mean, you're trading what is viewed as a highly touted pick 2031. If it was this 2K, that'd be like a 3 or 4 star, draft pick for a bunch of like 1 and 1.5 stars.
No, yeah, it's not bad. I think it gives the Suns more flexibility, this deal. So it's not terrible. I don't know if they're going to get Jimmy Butler with this deal, but it just gives them more flexibility for the future because what if they do want to trade KD and still build around Devin Booker? You got to hit on these draft picks if you want to do that.
Yeah, this is a deal to get assets.
Yeah.
They went 1 for 3. I get it. I don't hate it. We'll see, though. Very interesting move. The Suns are just a conundrum right now. Just they really can't figure out what to do, how to play successful basketball. But interesting trade.
It would have been crazy if Jimmy Butler did get traded right now. We could have talked about it right now. Jimmy Butler is now
I
on
thought
the
you were going to
Suns.
report a head coach hour.
I mean, when Mikal Bridges got traded, that was a pretty viral pick-a-side moment. That was lit. It was literally mid-show.
Mikal Bridges.
Hasn't moved the needle.
Oh, damn, John.
Did you see Mikal Bridges yesterday?
No, I'm not saying that Mikel hasn't done some good things, but it hasn't moved the needle at all from the Knicks.
The Knicks are the
He
third
has moved the
seed right
needle,
now.
though. He's been their third best
The
player.
Knicks are 2 games, 2.5, 2 games, whatever it is, behind the Celtics. It's pretty good.
What were they last year? 3 seed? 4?
The Knicks were the 2 seed.
2?
This dude, John,
Damn,
man.
so they got McCann.
Somebody always doesn't move the needle. Josh Hart doesn't move the needle. Mikal Bridges, DeMontis Sabonis. Come on, man. Nobody moves the needle for you.
Yeah, because they played the Sixers in round
Yo,
1.
Josh Hart having his wrist fixed, he's different now. I didn't know he was going to continue to be this much of a demon.
He could
Although
stroke
Denny
it.
started to figure it out. Have you been?
Danny Avia, he was in street
been
clothes
keeping
the other
that?
day.
He is.
What does that matter?
Banged
He
up.
didn't
He
play.
plays, but he still plays.
Well, the other day he didn't
Oh,
play.
so he was hurt and
I
missed a
seen him in
game.
street clothes.
He probably
That's
was.
what I'm saying.
He probably was just hurt, not like
Okay.
being
Oh,
beat,
maybe.
You know.
Yeah.
Denny's actually been playing really great ball.
that's
He
good.
had a very abysmal start to the year.
He was horrible.
Second half.
He's been amazing.
looking
Yes.
electric.
Yeah, he's not
So-
better than Josh Hart.
This year, no.
Not even
No.
last year.
We did a redraft,
Last year, yes.
and I took Amino quickly over him, and I immediately regretted it. I'm like, I should have took that.
get
Amanda
it.
Quickly's a better player than Denny Avia.
I would rather, it was for the Hawks. For the Hawks next to Trey, I'd rather have the win.
Easy.
So
Yeah, that
that's
makes
why.
sense.
Use your head, Joel.
I'd rather have the
Stop
sixth
sleeping
man
on Denny.
off the
Denny
bench.
hoops.
I got DeAndre Hunter now. They're straight.
Denny hoops. I would take Denny on the Lakers.
Quickly, I like too.
yesterday.
He's just been hurt this year, obviously. Hasn't been able to
I
show himself.
guess. But yeah, it's just this show's gonna be a mixture of NBA and NFL. Riv is not here today. He's reffing a basketball game, so John is filling in. Thank you for coming today, John.
Middle school referee.
Yes,
That's
Most
what.
girls, I think you said.
Yeah. Hope it's worth it, buddy. Hope it's worth it.
Drew does not like that. Drew wants him to be here.
Want some lock in?
It's not
want
personal.
I want my
John.
friend. You're my friend too, but like,
I love having John on.
I love you. I love you a lot, actually.
I like the different set of vibes that John gives me.
I just like John more.
I like Red. Oh, you do like John more?
Nice.
What is it? What sticks out to you?
He's a chill guy.
Thanks, man.
He is a chill guy. Yeah, no, I like the different set of vibes. I feel like if we're doing 3 shows a week, if 2 of them we have Riv, 1 of them have John.
You can't take it personal that, the usual 4 is Riv, Joel, and me.
Yeah. I like being like a Manu. I'm a selfless team first guy. So
Yeah, you're a glue guy.
But this isn't the
take it.
Fantastic Four, dude. It's the Fantastic 5.
He's cooking.
Thanks.
All right, you're
Appreciate
part of
that.
this.
He's cooking.
Yeah, you're part of this. Don't worry, man.
Sure.
Don't worry.
Manu is my favorite player growing up. So if I could be a 6-man, I'm
Manu,
happy with
tough.
it. Yeah.
So you don't have the ambitions of a James Harden?
That statement had less to do with you and more to do with Riv refereeing middle school basketball.
Oh, no.
Okay, yeah, just Joel putting
I would
it out
trade
there.
Riff for you in a heartbeat.
Let's go.
Number one thing though is that when we ask John to come on,
He's
I've
there.
never heard no.
He's locked in.
doesn't hesitate.
It's gonna
He's
take
here.
me 30 minutes, guys.
It is, yeah.
That's
it's
his
always
go-to
there's
message.
traffic. It's always
That's
there's
his go-to
traffic.
message.
And I'll get it. I've taken that drive.
You don't
many
even have
times.
to tell
I
us
know.
at this point. It's gonna
5
take us
o'clock.
30
Yeah, I
minutes.
know.
We
17. I
will
know.
wait. So before we go, I just want to share what happened before the podcast. I recently
Earwax
bought
thing?
yes.
Yeah, knew this was going.
I recently bought
You
a
had to know he was gonna share.
earwax removal tool on TikTok. I get them a lot. I like watching ear cleaning videos. It's like oddly satisfying to me.
I never got that. Ear cleaning and pimple popping.
The pimple popping got it.
Pimple popping is too much for me.
Neither of those move.
No, thank you.
Y'all never seen a giant cyst on
I'm
somebody's
straight, bro.
back?
Like
fucking
I'm
get
straight.
Sliced open.
I'm dead straight. I'm
Like
so
I
straight.
love
Do
when
you?
I see videos of people at the doctor and they just go in and they take the wax out and it's like a
giant
big
clump.
giant glob
Yeah,
of
that
wax.
just gives me the fucking
I'm just like,
skees,
damn,
bro.
that felt so
Man up.
satisfying.
It's gross.
Man up.
It's disgusting.
So basically, the earwax removal tool, it's a tool on TikTok, and it's not a promotion, nothing. It's just a tool on TikTok that it has a flashlight and has a camera. So when you go inside your ear, there's a camera that is looking inside your ear. And boy,
It's like you're getting a colonoscopy for your ear.
did my ears look
like that one?
insane.
You could have sold 1 million copies. Should have kept that low.
My ears looked insane. Drew saw the inside of my ear. Dehls was a little bit too disgusted by it. He didn't want to see
Said
it.
it smelled.
It does.
Yeah, that you were definitely using verbiage that definitely wouldn't sell another individual to want to see it.
It's bitter. The smell of wax is bitter.
Wait, so
I
does the
understand.
camera like link to your phone or something?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. And you look at the camera through your phone and you just go inside your ear and you just take out the wax because you could see it. It was built up and, I just scooped it and then I got it out like you're scooping ice cream.
Can you hear
just
better?
scoop it. Actually, I feel like I can. Oddly enough.
Okay. Yeah, you could never be a paid promoter. I did not believe you for
I
a second.
I feel the bass in my voice more now when I'm talking.
All right.
That's
You know,
what's up.
you know how when you sometimes you feel like things are underwater a little bit.
Yeah,
You know,
like a little
no.
clogged.
Yeah, yeah.
Yo, you ever see the candle wax ear remover? It's like something, I don't know how they do it, but it's like some kind of candle wax. They put it in your ear and it's supposed to like harden and it comes out, it takes out all the wax.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I'm straight.
It's kind of moving me.
Earwax is good, man. I need to go to a chiropractor though. That's the number one thing.
You were rolling around on that damn thing earlier.
The back roller, yeah.
Gleefully.
I haven't the foam roller, basically that's what it's called. I haven't went to the chiropractor in my life before.
I've never been to a chiropractor either.
Yeah, but I really want to go. Have you been to a
Oh, yeah.
chiropractor?
I went to chiropractors for years because of my shoulder. And one thing that I learned, which is valuable, is that I found a chiropractor who he does a fantastic job. He kind of helps correct the issue.
He just
opposed
knows how to hit that spot.
Is that why your posture's
Yeah.
so good?
Maybe it actually does help because sometimes I felt like in the past, like it would get adjusted, but it wouldn't like correct my issue. So it really helped fix my shoulder because I would wake up in the morning.
He rearranged your shit?
Yeah, low key. You know, like those clips of like Matthew Stafford, the dislocated shoulder is like groaning in pain. Like that's like me waking up like a year ago in bed, like
What'd you
just
do?
total. I had tendonitis in my right shoulder from playing basketball, and I think it was from the shoe and no shirt on in the sun, and it is built up, whatever it was, and my shoulder girdle would get. It's like it was from basically my shoulder down to like my like
elbow.
forearm.
Yeah.
So it was pretty brutal.
Do you make noises or do you just take it?
Oh, it's an honest question.
Like there's sometimes like when your back cracks and like
No.
or do you
does
just go,
anyone's back cracks and you don't let out some sort of noise?
like you
not
definitely so you're just like
I'm alone. Now,
do you
no.
do that? Do you go like
You definitely like, all right, breathe in.
You're not like
You're definitely like, oh.
Not one of those? You
You
never
don't
let
do
one
that?
of those out?
No.
so you're just silent, you're dead quiet?
Like
Yeah.
no?
Has it cracked loud?
Yeah.
Like how loud?
It gets loud in there.
Is it quite loud?
Quite a lot? Okay.
Quite loud. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I need to go. He's selling it very well.
Yeah, you got to get him his number.
I really
It
need to
depends
go.
who you talk to. 'Cause, like my brother Nick's a nurse, and like he's on the exact opposite side of the spectrum. He's like, it's a waste of time. But for me, it's worked well. So
I heard
if it gives
that,
you relief, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I heard that the problem with chiropractors is that when you go to the chiropractor, you have to keep on going.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
It's one of those things that you can't stop going. You have to.
That's what
keep
they get
going.
That's
you,
what I
bro.
was talking about before. Like
You're
getting
nuts.
adjusted.
You're
If you're
nuts.
just getting adjusted, you have to keep going back. If you get corrected, you're not gonna have to keep going.
What's the difference?
Because correction's like fixing the issue to where it's not like a requirement. Like it's kind of solving the problem.
Did you have any sort of like PT that went with it, or you just went
No,
to
I've never went to
chiropractor?
physical therapy. I probably should have.
So you got an entire correction.
He completely
Dilated that shit.
Oh my
No, come on,
God.
that's crazy. That's crazy. But
How long
the-
did it take?
when you get adjusted, it's not solving the issue. It's more so just kind of giving temporary.
Giving your-
relief.
I know, but did you get an adjustment or a correction?
Temporary.
I got corrected because like
Okay.
he would
Been there,
explain
Then yeah.
the language
Fuck.
he would use. I couldn't remember half the shit I was being told, like the different parts I had to stretch and whatnot. But it gave me like kind of like a foundation of kind of what to do to kind
You
of.
just
Do you
said,
do anything
just do it,
special?
So you
like-
have experience now.
No, I'm not gonna say. I'm
Do you
a
do anything
chiropractor.
special like pregame, warm ups? Like, are you
I do some yoga before I play a basketball game.
Okay.
But
little
I
downward
use like
facing
lacrosse
doggy,
ball. I'll use
upper,
all that
sun
good stuff.
salutation, all that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I took yoga
What you
in
giggling
college,
at?
bro.
Me too.
My
I
last
just took
semester.
It. I just took it. What you giggling at?
What did you
I'll
take?
use the lacrosse ball. I'll use the lacrosse ball. Help me too. It's some good stuff, and it helps me play better. It helps me
Great
feel
job,
better.
John. I like that.
Gets
I
you
like
nice
that.
and loose.
No problem.
So let's talk about the first topic of the show. Mark Daigneault. He is going to be the all-star head coach, and so will his assistant head coach. And the team in the East that has the best record, their head coach, Kenny Atkinson, right now, will be their head coach. But it's not finalized just yet. The reason why it's finalized for Mark Daigneault is because OKC is by far and away the best team in the West at 35-7, and nobody will catch them from now until February 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is interesting because we know that he's a great coach, but like, do you guys remember when OKC let up the most points in NBA history in a game? They got blown out by 71 points.
To the Grizzlies.
Yes. And it's just fascinating
ago.
to see how far he's come from that moment to this moment. And I think it's just kind of a lesson in patience with coaching because, you know, coaches, they're not miracle workers. If they don't have good talent, they're going to lose a lot of games.
Will Hardy
That's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
keeps a job on him every single season. We know he's a great coach. The Jazz are not a great team. Something about that the month of January and February, at least not this year, of course, years past, where they will overachieve. They were playing way better basketball, and then suddenly a part of the season happens, and it's like, all right, it's time to lose. And they start losing a bunch of games. But we know Will Hardy's a great coach, and the Utah Jazz front office understand that. They wouldn't let him go, and if they did let him go, he would have another job immediately. So sometimes you have to trust the process and with your coaches. Obviously, Mark Daigneault is one of the best head coaches in the league now. He is the head coach of the best team in the NBA currently where we stand. And this is well-deserved. Understanding where, of course, like you mentioned, Joel, where it wasn't pretty times for OKC for a while, but they have completely changed around their organization and their future. We now look at them as maybe the best organization in basketball where we currently stand with the amount of assets that they have when it comes to the draft, and when it comes to the amount of talent that they have on their team. And there's times where we nitpick and think that they could use another creator. But think about how luxurious that is for the OKC Thunder, where we're the best team in the NBA record-wise. We have one of the best net ratings in NBA history, one of the best defenses over the last few seasons. They are just a near perfect team, and we are asking, could they have a little bit more? Inevitably, they're going to make a power move, and they're going to stack the deck even more so. But you give a lot of credit to Mark and what he's been able to do with the young guys so quickly into their careers.
Absolutely. He's not only an elite coach, you can easily make the case Mark Daigneault's the best coach in the NBA when it comes to player development. The job that he's done, when you look around the NBA, Oklahoma City's become a place for players which other teams pass off. They go to Oklahoma City and they immediately become key rotation players. Isaiah Joe spent time with the Sixers. Kenrich Williams. A step further, you think of a guy like A.J. Mitchell as a rookie, second-round pick. And there's so many others who I can even be forgetting. Aaron Wiggins, 55th overall pick.
Cook.
One of the first 55th overall picks to be a rotation player. And while those players are undeniably really useful and they've proven to be established players, I think his background in player development, dating back to when he was coaching their G League team, has paid dividends. And to be so far and away the number 1 seed with the number 1 net rating in the NBA, when Chet Holmgren's played 10 games this year, and Isaiah Hartenstein missed the first half of the season up until this point, and you still have the best defense in the NBA. It goes back to 2-3 years ago when they didn't have Chet Holmgren for the entire what would have been his rookie season, and they still had one of the better defenses in basketball. So it's
You want to
super
know why they
deserving.
were one of the better defenses? I love this. I remember reading it because they were taking charges. They were so great at
Jalen
just
Williams,
reading
Olivier.
defenses and taking charges, and that's how they were forcing
Yep.
turnovers. They knew they didn't have the size down low. They just had to adjust.
They just had a great perimeter defense, and they rotated super well. So
Yep.
I felt like what the culture became then before they got Chet last year, it set the tone. And I mean, this is obviously the number 1 overall seed. That coach is going to coach the All-Star team, but it's super deserving. I'm glad that he's finally getting his flowers.
Yeah, he just needs a Larry now, really. I mean, that's
Look at you hating
just
already.
needs, I'm not hating, I'm just
how
saying.
is he hating?
Boston Celtics fans love to put this type of pressure on other teams.
I am a fan of what OKC is doing.
Pressure is a privilege. We're not
He
putting no
is
pressure on the
spinning.
fucking Pelicans to win a championship. We're putting pressure on OKC. We're putting
OKC
pressure on the
has a-
Cavs. Putting pressure on Boston, the teams that deserve the pressure.
OKC has a multi-year window.
Absolutely.
All
Oh,
right.
shit.
I'm not
That
saying they don't.
But basketball is year to year. If you don't achieve when you are one of the best teams in basketball, if you don't win a championship, you failed.
And
So
I
right
agree.
now,
I
who's your
think,
favorite? Your favorite's OKC to win it all?
I
Or is it
mean, I'm
Boston
going with my
still?
boys. Even though
Who's
they're
your
playing
favorite?
Taking OKC.
Over
I think
Boston.
OKC.
Yes.
Okay.
I think they're the betting favorite right now. I think like slightly over Boston because if we're being honest, I know this is about Mark Daigneault, but the West right now, this gritty West. Oh my God, it's so much better than the East. You look at the West right now. Are we serious?
wide
Like
open.
it would be a major disappointment if OKC didn't go to the finals the way the West is currently shaping up.
And this is without Chet.
The
They're
the
playing
Nuggets are
amazing
not
basketball without him.
not as good as we thought they were coming to the year. The Timberwolves
up, they're
definitely
still
aren't.
okay.
Houston's the number 2 seed. You know what I mean? Like what team out in the West have been even remotely close to what OKC's doing?
Dallas went healthy. That's the only thing I'll say.
Okay, I'm cool with
don't
that.
hate
Dallas
that.
went healthy,
I don't
and they
hate
went to
it.
the finals last year. Luka, I definitely think that's
Because
fair.
if Dallas gets healthy and they match up with the Grizzlies in the first round, I will take Dallas.
So would I.
I understand that.
Dallas would be favored. I think pretty
they would
comfortably
be-
too.
Grizzlies playing
Comfortably.
some great ball, man.
I'm not going to say comfortable. I think it's going to be a great
real,
series.
Real quick,
Respect
not
Memphis.
basketball related.
I respect
those
Memphis.
red
I know you
jerseys,
do. He don't.
You liked I liked the jersey. Just felt weird for Memphis.
I want a John Morant red jersey.
It just when I thought I was watching fucking Houston when I turned it on.
I respect Memphis, but you're going to take the Grizzlies over a healthy Luka and Kyrie.
That
in
defense
series.
this year for the Grizzlies is different.
Yeah.
Plus the offense that they're giving you this year.
They can't guard Luka though. Like Luka's
But who
Luka.
can?
Nobody. Exactly.
I don't know.
Maybe
I feel like
Lou Dort.
in a playoff
That's
setting,
it.
their offense, even though Jaren's been
And
so
JB.
good that gives you hope, but their offense, I'm still not
respect.
sold on.
No,
the
but you're right.
playoffs.
Listen,
I
I'm
hope that
still,
Memphis takes
you
that
know,
to 7.
I think it's an amazing series. It's an amazing series.
think-
They're so deep.
We've had this conversation on the podcast before, but I want to bring it up again. Do you think that this current OKC team is better than the OKC team that went to the finals with Kevin Durant? If you guys, if I need to refresh your memory, that team had Russell Westbrook, Cephalosha, KD, Ibaka, Perkins, James Harden off the bench with Derek Fisher and Nick Collison. And this current OKC team,
Saying no.
you have SGA, Lou Dort, J-Dub, Chet, Hartenstein, Caruso.
There's nobody on.
Kaysen.
There's nobody on Russell Westbrook's level.
Yeah, the number 2 isn't as good as Russ. KD and SGA though, I mean, shit, SGA's playing like legitimately a top 2 player in basketball, top 3 at worst.
And like 6th man of the year, James Harden
Yeah.
and J-Dub right now. I guess it's a fair conversation because what J-Dub does for you on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Depth after
I
that,
think
though.
maybe if you look at the numbers, I think you can paint a picture that's close. But James Harden got traded the very next season and became a
Superstar.
locked in all-star.
Literally,
like
amazing
literally.
ball
So
player.
Well, he
James
showed
Harden,
flashes of it
yeah,
then.
and James Harden versus the Spurs had some great performances
No
that
doubt.
really willed them to get to the finals. And then he didn't play well in the finals. But no, I think that version of James Harden, I think he arguably that version of James Harden will be this OKC's second best player.
You know,
Yeah,
that 2012
not an insane
that
statement.
2012 Thunder team swept the defending champs, the Lakers, in the first round. Or the Mavericks, sorry. They beat the Lakers in the second round.
And then they
in
beat the
5
Spurs.
games.
Yes.
So to beat the team that's won back-to-back championships, second round, 5 games, the sweep Dirk, you have to go 2012, but there's some clear advantages with this Thunder team. I think Mark Daigneault is easily a better coach than Scott Brooks, and they have more depth. Of course, like I look at Ibaka, who was great for them in that run. They had a clearly better top 4, top 5 guys, but this Thunder team has a deeper 10-man rotation, and that can really mean a lot in the playoffs.
Realistically, I think the only thing stopping OKC, like obviously, I think Boston and Cleveland, they're on their level clearly, right? But outside of that, it's just J-Dub. If J-Dub, who's obviously super young, right, in his early 20s, if he's not able to step up to the moment, which would be fine, you know, like he's a super young player. I'm not expecting him to have an MVP performance, but to me, that's the one area where I could say that's where I have my biggest question at OKC, because the defense, it's historic this year. SGA is playing out of his mind, the best basketball of his career. We know the depth that they have. The three-point shooting can be improved. I'm not going to just completely gloss over that. And the size maybe, but if you have Chet and Hartenstein, I think you're fine. The real one question to me is J-Dub. Is J-Dub going to give us what we saw last year in the playoffs, especially against Dallas, where he was underwhelming, or is he able to learn from that? Is he able to improve, be efficient, be able to do some of the things as a playmaker that he'll have to do eventually at some point in his career? Because I still think it'd be pretty difficult for OKC to win a championship with J-Dub playing at the level he did last year in the playoffs.
Right. And last year when we saw it against the Mavericks, their role players weren't hitting their shots.
Yeah.
What we anticipated coming in
PJ
was
Washington
that they would
God.
PJ Washington turned to his second coming. But regardless of that, just talking about OKC, Case and Wallace went cold. You had J-Dub go cold. Isaiah Joe went cold. Lou Dort went cold. It's like all these guys had been so consistently shooting the three ball at a very efficient clip. In this series versus the Mavs, you give the Mavericks a lot of credit for the amount of pressure that they put on these players, but a lot of these shots were manufactured and they were really good looks. They just were not knocking them down. That's the one avenue that you can look at OKC and wonder, okay, is this going to be a part 2 of last year?
Right.
But if that's the case, now we start to have more question marks about whether or not these guys are ready for the moment. They are young. They have time to build, and I agree with that. They have such a huge window of opportunity to win. But I think this time around, because their identity is so heavily focused on their defense, it allows a lot more room for error in that regard, because they go and they can clamp up legitimately every single team in the league. This defense is just that special.
The offense is going to be better this year in the playoffs, because last year Shea was the only one with playoff experience and pedigree in that entire rotation. And of course, you look at guys like Case and Wallace. He was a rookie playing a key role in the second round of the playoffs.
It's a fact.
A lot of those guys, I think it's shot variance, and obviously when you're not hitting shots, I think it's due kind of just law of averages that they're going to hit more shots this year with more experience. And on top of that, Jalen Williams is a player who I don't think he's having an all-star caliber season quite exactly. I'd have him as a replacement right now. But I still believe by the end of this year, he's going to have enough reps to learn from last year. And really, that was a tough matchup for him, too, because that Dallas Maverick team caught fire at the right time. And physically, they could really match up well with him. But I do believe that having a full playoff run, a full 2 series, is going to pay him really because, like, think about it this way. Shea, he played that playoff series versus the Warriors in 2018 as a rookie. He had that in his back pocket when he went to the playoffs in 2020. Just having that experience definitely does make a big difference.
Can I ask you, though? I guess everyone can give their 2 cents. Is it alarming to you that J-Dub's offensive game hasn't taken a leap this year?
You know what's funny about that is that there was this tweet that I saw from an OKC fan. His name is Pranav on Twitter, and he's a big OKC fan. He's a Chiefs fan, too. Yeah. Yes. He basically, I don't know if it's him that tweeted it. I don't want to misquote him, but I think that he reposted. It was something like that Jalen Williams is the type of player that the dynasty starts after.
And that's sad to hear, because I think J-Dub has a lot of potential to be great. His defensive effort is incredible. Mm-hmm. He's an amazing defensive player. It's the inconsistencies of his offensive game. That's the one issue. I think he's a really underrated playmaker. I think he's a really good passer. I think he's a really good finisher. It's just a matter of being efficient when it comes to jump shooting and finishing near the basket too. But I don't like the statement because he's super young, and I think that this trio needs to stick together.
It's definitely too quick to make.
There's no context to that tweet, I imagine. I'm sorry. I know that there's maybe a little bit of, like, him and Shea do have similar games, but if you take Jalen Williams out the equation, who are you replacing him with that's going to be a better shot creator?
Unless you're telling me you're getting Giannis.
Last year, he was in year 2.
That's the point of the tweet, and I get it.
Yeah.
He's a main piece in a mega trade.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using him to get Giannis or a top 5-7 player in the world, sure. But realistically, like, outside of Giannis, you want to trade J-Dub for Joel Embiid right now? Like, who are you going out to getting that's going to push?
I don't even know if
would you trade J-Dub and 3 firsts for Devin Booker?
No.
No?
I don't know about 3 firsts.
Definitely.
It's Devin Booker.
Depends how good the picks are.
It is
They
Devin
have
Booker.
some really good
Right.
picks. If it's like their first, where it's gonna be like 28
I don't
and shit,
think
sure.
that the trade that J-Dub is involved in has to be a top 5, top 10 player in the world.
I would only trade J-Dub if I'm getting a superstar back.
Yeah, I don't see much of a point to trade him for a guy that's like, the 20th best player, the 15th
well, Devin
best player.
Booker's not a solidified top 10 player.
He's
That's
top
fa-
15.
yeah.
At floor, he's
But also,
top
Devin
15.
Booker could have seasons individually where it's like he was the ninth best
Yes.
player in the game.
He had 240 balls in the finals. Like, we know he's meant for the moment. We watched how he played in the Olympics, too. We know that he can adjust to a role, God forbid, if need be. Which obviously that'll never be the case. But
Yeah.
OKC, you're not going to be the guy. It's Shea.
They're
Yeah,
so
no.
young that, like, thankfully they don't have to make the decision now, right? Like, they're
For
probably
real.
at minimum a year, if not more, away
It's a
just
good
because of
thought-provoking
contracts.
question, though.
It is, because it's also, on the other hand, like, with the second apron penalties, with everything that's going to come up, Shea's getting a super max. Chet's probably going to get a super max.
Max.
Well, J-Dub, because you had to get all NBA or all defense to get those, like, certain qualifications. Because at that point, are you going to have almost 3 guys making that much money? Number one, is ownership going to want to pay the ridiculous tax that you're going to have to pay on it? Because it's going to be like $1 billion. I'm guessing it, but like $500, $600 million in taxes. And on top of all the restrictions you have, I think OKC is unique because since they have so many draft picks, I feel like the restrictions probably aren't as harsh because they could consistently have this like influx of young talent that they don't have to worry about like, oh man, I wish we could get that guy in the buyout market, because you'll be able to draft players and develop them, and they've done such a good job at that.
My issue with this and that tweet specifically is that it reminds me so much of Jaylen Brown. When Jaylen Brown's in year 3,
Training for Scoop.
you compare that. You compare Jaylen Brown year
That's
3.
right. That's right.
to
I'm glad he
Jalen
brought that
Williams. I love Scoot. I'm still on that hill.
Talk about school later.
We will. When you compare year 3 Jaylen Brown, who many people said and thought very similar things about, that the dynasty may start after him, they have to move him, and then 2 years later he's winning a Finals MVP. With Jalen Williams, he's in year 3 averaging 21 points a game on a team that's 35-7. So I feel like people definitely overreact to one playoff series when you don't look at the bigger picture, that he's one of the best examples of a guy that's gotten better and better every single year. Up until this year, he hasn't taken a step forward, but I trust him to continue to develop.
So back to the original question. Is it slightly alarming that while Chet has been out, we haven't seen him be a consistent, dominant offensive player? And I'm not saying dominant like 26 points per game. That's unreasonable. But a consistent 23 to 24 points per game, but efficiently.
I'm not sounding the alarm.
So let me ask y'all a question. This is just, I'm gonna put up some names here. This is just a hypothetical. Does this player in place of J-Dub make OKC better? Lauri Markkanen.
No.
Not clearly better now.
Zion Williamson healthy.
I'm taking Zion over a lot. That's my bias talking.
It's just the shooting.
I don't
just
think
the
it,
shooting.
it's essential. It's not essential.
No, but it's just they already have, like, they're not the best 3-point shooting team as is, and not that they necessarily would need that, but
Yeah.
it'd be nice to be
If
fit
and
better.
when Caruso finally figures out the 3-ball, they'll be okay.
You have to tailor your roster around Zion, and Oklahoma City's got something better going on right now.
Do you need to tailor
Yes,
it?
you do.
Not
They
when you
got
have
spacing, though.
OKC.
They're not a great shooting team though. Like they, on theory, they do. They have a bunch of shooters, but it hasn't really translated.
Okay, next name, Pascal
They take a lot of
Siakam.
middies though.
Pascal's been so good this
Pascal's
year.
probably better right now, but like J-Dub is what, 6 years older?
No, I'm
Like,
just saying, like right now, if they just swap places, like, does it make him better?
you also get some extra size with Pascal too, which they could.
Pascal's
they could
defense
use.
has been
Pascal. Yeah, I mean
so
Pascal's probably a
fucking
better
good
player.
this year. Dude, did you know that the Pacers have of teams that have of lineups that have at least 350 possessions logged? The best defensive lineup is the Indiana Pacers. That team has been so locked on the defensive side of the ball, at least that starting 5. I can get it for us in a few, but I'm blanking on the 5 players. But it is Halliburton. It does have Turner. It does have, obviously, Pascal Siakam. Night and day difference from last year. And Pascal Siakam's a huge reason for that.
Now, they're winning games recently.
They had
I just think you get playmaking with Pascal. You get consistent scoring, efficient scoring, great
close.
defense. I can hear this. I think Pascal's a better basketball player than him. So honestly,
There's nothing wrong
it's
with
not nuts to say that.
Devin Booker.
D-Book, come on.
Yeah, Devin
yeah,
Booker.
definitely Devin Booker, but
Zach LaVine.
Zach's been playing
So
at all-star
fucking
level.
good.
Zach's interesting.
He's so fucking
Like
good.
Zach and SGA or SGA and J-Dub.
Zach and SGA or SGA and J-Dub. That's he's been.
He would fit like a glove.
He
on
would
that
fit
team.
incredibly well, seamlessly, but we do tend to overlook that J-Dub's the better and more versatile defensive player.
For sure.
by far.
And I do believe his three-point shooting is going to raise him 33%. So people are going to think maybe overrating J-Dub, but I don't really think that's the case based off potential. I'd have J-Dub still.
That's fine.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know.
fine.
I don't know if it drastically
J-Dub.
improves.
Yeah, J-Dub shot what last year from 3? 40 something? Yeah, something crazy.
Yeah.
You love to not answer the question.
Jalen Williams.
It said who if you swap this
I
player for
didn't
this
answer
player,
either. I'm
Yeah,
not
fake.
gonna-
I didn't.
if you
Fake,
swap them right now, does the team become better? Not long term. I'm
I don't
talking
think
about
so.
right now.
Right
I
now.
know.
Right
They're on
now,
pace
give
for
me
70
J-Dub.
plus
I'm
wins.
gonna say no. J-Dub's defense is too essential.
Franz Wagner.
Franz, before his oblique injury, was playing
He
at
was amazing.
Franz knows how to
Easily
play
higher
defense
level.
too,
Yes,
man.
he's a good
Having his best
playmaker,
defensive
and the
season, better-
shot was
better
there.
passer,
The
so.
size is there. I think I liked Franz there.
I'll give you Franz. Yeah,
Take
Franz to make him better right now.
Thing is, this is just J-Dub on a down year, sadly. Down year.
Down year.
You know what I
Still
mean?
playing
Like,
well,
I
yeah.
say that in quotations for those that aren't
No,
watching.
it's crazy because they
Down
really
here,
are
best
the
team in
number
the
one
game.
seed by far and away.
Yes.
Like they're gonna win 6
And
I
games.
just think you get a bit of upgrade in playmaking, and you get some more size.
You're saying that with who?
Franz.
Okay, I get it. That I don't disagree. No. I think J-Dub's a good playmaker.
Franz is the better passer. Trust.
I don't know, dude. J-Dub's vision driving to the basket and seeing
It's average.
the guy in the dunking spot. Why do you say that?
Okay, this is how I'll put it. In Orlando, there's very little to no spacing.
You're spitting?
In Oklahoma City, there's average spacing right now. It's going to get better. But Franz is to me, just a more complete decision maker and someone that can kind of hit more angles as a passer from what I've seen. I feel like at his position,
I feel like he reads the
he's
floor
a good-
better. He's taller. You know what I mean?
He can even run your offense. He is, to me, a pretty good passer at his position.
But J-Dub does run, although not overly efficiently. He does run the offense for OKC.
like
And the numbers get nasty when Shea comes
You
on
put
the court.
Franz in that
Just
spot.
saying he
No,
can.
nasty.
Saying he does.
Franz averaging 6 assists in that spot, 5.5. If he's getting more opportunity, then obviously got Shea next to him.
So right now, these two teams are both one of the worst teams in their respective conferences. The Pelicans are the 14th seed, and the Hornets are the 13th seed. Both teams are on their respective winning streaks right
analytical.
now. The Pelicans, they recently have gotten Zion back, but he's only played in 2 of the 4 games that they've won in a row. Really, Trey Murphy has been the star of the show for them. He's averaging 25 in those games. And the question is, which one of these two teams do you think has a better chance to get back into the play-in race?
Now, this is an interesting
Hornets versus
question.
Pels. Real pick a side.
Very, very, very
session.
niche convo.
Yes.
No one else is talking
The
about
difference between the two, the Hornets are 5.5 games out of the 10 spot. The Pels are 10 games behind the 10
What
spot.
happens when you're 20 games under?
Here's the thing. The Pelicans
They're better.
clear the Hornets. They are
When healthy, yeah.
drastically better than them. In the last 10 games, because the two samples where you have 7-3 Pelicans, 4-6 Hornets, but in the last 5 games, the Hornets are 4-1. In the last 10 games, the Hornets have a top 6 defense. That's been a main precursor as to why they've been playing winning basketball as of late.
Shout out to Mark Will.
For the Pelicans, they've been top 12, top 13 in both categories, offense and defense. Now, there's a lineup that they have. Now, it's a lineup that I'm reading that has the majority of their healthy players. Only 42 possessions.
Oh, damn.
We know that they've been in the mud. It's because they've been injured so much. This is a lineup without Herb, without B.I. It's the lineup with DeJounte Murray, C.J. McCollum, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, Yves Misi. They are at a point differential of plus 12.4, points per possession 133.3, EFG of 62%. On the defensive side, it's 110.5 points per possession. This is a legitimate great lineup, and at minimum, these are the 5. Although Zion, you know, sometimes it's injury management, and you don't know if he's going to be playing game to game. But for a majority, you hope that these 5 are going to be the core that you can rely on game to game. Trey's been playing out of his mind.
So good, man.
Really high level basketball. The efficiency maybe hasn't been there, but
is it, man.
for the opportunity, he's making the most of his chances. CJ McCollum's been hooping. DeJounte Murray is being DeJounte Murray. That's all you can ask for. And then Zion Williamson and Yves Misi, who's been one of the more underappreciated rookies this year. Obviously, they had a huge hole at center. He can fulfill that hole there. And then when Zion's there, you know he's going to be an efficient basketball player. He can have the ball in his hand. He can facilitate a little bit. But that's a good starting five. Numbers aside, talent alone, this is a good starting five. Maybe doesn't have the most spacing whatsoever, really, because you know Zion Williamson and Yves Missi, these aren't the best floor spacers. But DeJounte, CJ, and Trey, they can do a decent job of either extending and scoring on perimeter or also getting to the cup themselves. Mainly DeJounte and CJ, but the Pelicans are a better team by far. They're just in such a hole that I don't know if it's possible to get out of. And those teams in between there too, you have the Timberwolves, you have the Suns, you have the Warriors, you have the Spurs,
The Kings.
and the Kings too. That's another team.
It's a lot of teams.
There's a lot of teams that, hey, we may not be the hugest Timberwolves fans. We may not be the highest on the Warriors or the Suns. The Spurs may be just the most mid team, most average, mid in the best way possible because they are still young. But this team is too banged up, too far gone right now for me to trust that they can get to that 10 spot. On the other side with the Hornets, I know, I'm sorry, it's trying to address two complete opposite spectrums. The Hornets defense has been really good recently. A lot of that's to credit Mark Wilkes. Shout out to him for being back. They have a strong center down low. He's been strong on the glass. He's been great near the rim as well as a rim runner. That's been huge for them. You still have LaMelo Ball being the shot chucker that he is, an efficient scorer. Again, I think it's very reminiscent of Donovan Mitchell's offensive game in Utah. I will continue to say that.
What makes you say that?
Because of the efficiency. Donovan Mitchell is not this efficient guy that people think that, well, obviously he's turned into. But in Utah, when he was out there and they still were the number one defense, the main reason why they were so great was because, one, Donovan Mitchell was amazing, but the defense was also number one in the NBA.
I think it's disrespectful to compare LaMelo to Donovan
agree.
Mitchell.
It's not as if LaMelo Ball's a bum. To say
not a
disrespectful
bum.
is as if LaMelo Ball isn't an all-star
But
caliber
you're talking
player.
about like no. What LaMelo Ball is doing right now with the Hornets is legitimately empty numbers.
The thing is, what do you want him to do? It's the same question of
more
what did you want
efficient?
Cade Cunningham to do
He's
last season?
He's settling.
Cade
for,
Cunningham got wildly disrespected last season because his usage was through the roof when there was a lack of talent, a lack of spacing, and he was forced into a bunch of terrible shots,
Okay.
a bunch of terrible, inefficient
That's
basketball.
fine. That doesn't
LaMelo's
mean
in a similar
you compare
spot.
him to Donovan Mitchell.
But
Donovan Mitchell.
he's shot chucking.
Donovan
bad
Mitchell as a
efficiency,
rookie may
and
have-
averaging almost 30 points.
Donovan Mitchell as a rookie may have been inefficient, but he won
wasn't just
a
rookie.
playoff
It
series.
wasn't just rookie
No, but
Donovan.
I'm saying, let me go through the timeline. Donovan Mitchell in his first season upset a team in the playoffs and was the best player in the series.
He was great.
LaMelo
He was
Ball in his
amazing.
first two playing games, what did he do?
He wasn't great.
He wasn't good. Okay.
His rookie season on the Hornets, they went to the play-in.
He also
Donovan
was coming
Mitchell.
off a wrist injury too.
Exactly.
Maybe you
and
can
he was
find
rookie of the
maybe
year.
you can find a true shooting percentage numbers, John, but I don't think Donovan Mitchell was as inefficient as LaMelo is right now. LaMelo
numbers
Ball
up.
wastes a ton of possessions.
And that's where I go. I'm not really critiquing LaMelo from a playmaking element because I think that's where we really factor in the supporting cast. But I will from a scoring perspective because Donovan was a clearly, to me, more complete scorer with his ability to get to the rim in those early years. Well, LaMelo right now, this is a player who's taking 13 threes a game and making 33% of them. And I think
34.
you could say 33 and a half. I'm rounding down. I'm
rounding down's nuts.
Yeah,
Rounding
you want to
down's
know why?
crazy.
Because I believe that's a byproduct of him not being a player who gets
33.5.
the rim or gets to the foul line a whole lot. And that's always kind of been his moxie as a player. That's who he always has been. It's kind of him being hardwired as a high volume 3-point shooter. I expect that to improve, but it does really indicate LaMelo is a little bit of a more one-dimensional scorer as someone who doesn't have that strong
He
game.
goes
game.
downhill.
He does not get near, he doesn't
He
finish
just takes like 15 threes a
or
game.
kind of initiate offense in the interior as much as you like.
So-
I think the mid-range scoring, you could say it's 1.5 too, but it's really to me an issue of I think Donovan is the more complete scorer.
Looking at Donovan Mitchell, his rookie year in Utah, he shot 34% from three. After that, 37% from three, 38% from three, 39% from three.
I have the true shooting numbers.
okay.
If you want to do that.
Yeah, do
Okay.
that. Yeah.
So this year, LaMelo Ball, 55% true shooting. Just for reference, he was 56% last year, so has dipped a bit. Of course, he was banged up last
His
year, so
usage
not
is
full.
at like almost 40%.
And they only played like 20 games last
Yeah,
year.
Donovan Mitchell's rookie year, 54% true shooting and 38%, or excuse me, 54% and 54%. So basically back-to-back years, same numbers, which are a bit worse than LaMelo Ball this year.
What are the other years in Utah?
I was just looking at his first couple seasons, but once after that, he's starting to improve. He was at 56%, 57%, 57%. Then he went to Cleveland.
Yeah, because
I'm
Donovan
not
Mitchell.
disrespecting Don.
No, Donovan Mitchell, his rim numbers were good though.
Given his size, it is really great.
62% at the rim his rookie year, 59% his second year, 61% in his third year, and then in his fourth year he dipped to 57%. But his final year in Utah, 65% at the rim. Like he's always, after his rookie year, he was great at the rim and he was above average 3-point shooter. Like I think Donovan Mitchell, like defensively, we know Rudy Gobert what he's doing. Donovan Mitchell carried those Utah teams offensively.
Oh, without a doubt.
And they won a playoff series.
I'm with you.
I can't compare that to LaMelo.
They also blew it to the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, I know that. But, I mean...
And Donovan Mitchell wasn't that good.
Well, do you know he was injured in that series with an ankle injury?
But then Donovan Mitchell also, this year, he's being a team player, and I think that this is where I give him a lot of credit. But last year, he was great in the playoffs. 2 years in a row, he got outperformed by Jalen Brunson.
I don't think that the comparison...
Again, this isn't a knock on Don. I'm not trying to disrespect Don. LaMelo's a great player. So is Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's an amazing basketball player.
Here's what I'll say to that.
This isn't a slight. LaMelo's not average.
No, it is a slight because Mitchell's a much better player than him.
In the Big
20...
He just gave you the stats of true shooting in
his first 2 years.
Mitchell, in the playoffs that you're talking about, that he was bad, he averaged 32 points per game in the playoffs.
But the issue is, we're also looking at Donovan Mitchell's rookie and second year. This is LaMelo like year 5.
I'm talking about the Brunson back-to-back
seasons. I'll give him
seasons.
some leeway there. But
still,
those first 2 years
in the series against the Clippers, in the series against the Clippers, Donovan Mitchell averaged 35, 5, and 5.
Agreed.
45% from 3. You said he wasn't good in the series.
Well, they blew it.
They blew it, but he was amazing on a bum ankle.
Defensively, that was where they're really getting exploited. So I kind of understand where you're coming from. The offense, that was not the issue for him. But those first 2 years in Utah, they started Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors at the 4. Those were very traditional offense lineups, which
and Rubio
I
at
believe
the 1
held back Donovan Mitchell for years in that end of the floor. So I give him more leeway with the production because he had to overcome a lot of that deficiency and lack of skill offensively. And they're still an average offense. He had him in the top half at a point. So
listen, to answer the question though, the Hornets have a much better chance than the Pels to me. I said it last one. Trey Murphy, I think, is the best story of the Pelicans because I feel like he's been labeled as a 3-and-D guy for most of his career. But this year, he's been able to put the ball on the floor. He's been able to create for himself, hit middies, hit step backs, a lot of the things that you wouldn't expect a 3-and-D player to do. So I think he's definitely leveled up. But there's just too many teams out west for me to be able to see the Pelicans. They just dug themselves too deep a hole. The Hornets on the other side, though, they still have a few teams to climb, but there's teams that you feel more likely they can do it. And I think the biggest one right now is Chicago Bulls because Chicago Bulls are 19-25. They're 8 games better than the Charlotte Hornets. But like we say every year,
they can take whenever.
Make trades.
Yes.
If they trade Zach LaVine, if they trade Vucevic, who's been phenomenal for them this season, then there's a path for them to really start falling off. But if they keep LaVine and Vooch, I don't know if they're going to be able to make up the difference because they're 7-8 games back right now.
Can I say this? The Bulls, they've gotten a lot of slack for taking too long to move their pieces. I think now they've really tried to keep all their chips in their possessions, and it's starting to pay off. We thought Zach LaVine was a dead contract, immovable contract. Zach LaVine's playing himself back to get his trade value back to not where it was when he was initially dropping 28 a night and 50, 40, 85, but back to maybe 2 first-round picks.
It's not Bradley Beal.
It's not far from Bradley Beal. Well said. And Vucevic, who also people thought was dead in the water, he's back. Vuce is having his best season out of Chicago Bull by far.
They're playing a dangerous game. They have a top 10 projected pick.
Yes.
You're playing a dangerous game here where it's like, we got to get all the value, but fuck it, man.
They held on, and right now, where we stand,
we'll see.
2025, January, it looks to be the right move.
They need to trade them. I think the Hornets have a better shot to get back in the play-in race, but I think both teams... Health is such a major concern. With the Pelicans, it's the Zion thing, really, that's the biggest question mark.
And Brandon Miller's out for the year now. We didn't even really talk about that.
Brandon Miller's not going to play for the Hornets. They just got Mark Will back, but Miller's not going to play.
Where the fuck was I? Out for the season?
Pretty sure, bro. Yeah, he has a wrist.
He's out indefinitely.
Yeah.
He's out indefinitely. So, the Hornets right now are
Every
devoid of
fantasy
talent.
basketball team I have is fucked.
My goodness.
But
yeah, you mentioned it. The
dropping
Hornets
him.
are 5.5 games
Torn
back.
wrist ligament.
And you look at the teams that are above the
I
Hornets.
did see that. I didn't know if it was out for the season.
I saw it was like 4 to 6 months or some shit like that. So
That's
The teams in front of the Hornets, the Brooklyn Nets, who I think are going to trade Cam Johnson and lose their best player soon. And then the Bulls, the 10th seed, and then the Sixers. I think the Sixers are probably going to bounce back, maybe. I don't know. They could also just be bad all year. I wouldn't be surprised.
They said the same injury happened to Bradley Beal in January 2021. He was out for the year.
But no, I think this gives the Hornets have a chance because LaMelo Ball, he's inefficient, but he's still going to put up numbers and he impacts winning. I do think that. And then Mark Will, 21-12.
He's been
I
great.
think if he can stay healthy,
Yeah, that's a big
it
if.
really
Real.
changes the dynamic of what the Hornets could do. I think it just increases their floor a ton. I mean, now you have a
Center.
legitimate defensive presence.
Just
They
move off
just
Nick
traded Nick
Richards.
Richards. That was risky.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. To get 3 second-round picks.
I guess.
Josh Okogie.
And you saw Nick Richards in his debut. He hooped.
Yeah,
He did
play
hoop.
well.
He did.
So no, I think it's the Hornets. You know, Miles Bridges even. You know, we know the drama with Miles Bridges, but he's playing well as of recently. So yeah, maybe they can get into the play.
That the Hornets' bummer is that the two guys that they put all their chips into, you can't have them at the same time. LaMelo Ball and Brandon played the beginning of the season. Brandon Miller wasn't, it took him a little while to figure it out. But then LaMelo Ball goes down.
Yeah.
B. Mill starts to figure it out. Now we're moved by Brandon Miller. We're excited for his sophomore season. Now this year you finally get LaMelo Ball healthy, and now Brandon Miller's in and out of the lineup. And now it looks as if he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Mark Will last year missed a good portion of the season. This year misses a good portion to start the year. Has only played in 17 games if I'm not mistaken. The health of the young core, the quote unquote face of the franchise, they aren't reliable right now.
It's been the same story of the Pelicans, ironically, for the last
True.
2-3 years. So
That's why I think it's tough with the Pelicans because you don't want to trade Zion for nothing. Ingram probably walks in the offseason. The core is just weird. It's just a weird fit. CJ, DeJounte.
They do have some of the best role players in the league, though.
Yeah, they
it's a
do.
shame
Trey.
because in theory, if those key stars stayed healthy, you could kind of see those role players shine the way Herb Jones did versus Suns 2 years ago, and they had that opportunity.
They have a baby OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges combo with Trey and Herb Jones.
Yeah, it's just hard to see the path because even if everyone is healthy, it's like, first of all, you need them healthy, right? You need Zion healthy. You need DeJounte back to,
He had a dreadful start, but
exactly. And he got hurt in like the first game or whatever, so he's been back. But like even all of these guys would still have to play up till what we're expecting them to, and it's hard to see a world where everyone's like, oh yeah, they're all playing at what we're expecting at their peak.
They'd have to go on like a 20-5 type run.
Yeah, it'd be really tough. It'd be really
Like they're
tough.
7-3 right now in their last 10, which has been impressive.
Still under 500.
They've played impressive basketball, but they beat the teams that they're supposed to.
They need like a
back-to-back
10-game
Utah.
win streak.
Yeah, the
They
Hornets
should.
and the Pelicans have faced the exact same teams
Yes.
on their win streaks.
So that's where, you can be optimistic as a Pels fan. You were at rock bottom. You were I don't want to say laughing stock because no one's really laughing at injuries, but like you were the.
But also, if you're a Pels fan, don't you kind of wish like Cooper Flag? You know what I mean?
I don't
Like,
hate that idea.
just
I
They're
don't
just
hate it.
adding talent to a team that really has no direction.
yeah. But also, I would rather say fuck it, give me a top 5 pick
Yeah, they
than
have
like
more talent. It
let's
just
push
gives you.
especially
more
for
avenues.
David Griffin is trying to keep his job.
Would
True.
they force Cooper to play the 5? That gets nasty.
probably not.
No, that's Misi.
True.
He played 3.
It's a fact. Oh, Zion played the 3?
You
if
probably
keep
move off
at
Zion.
the 4, and then
You're not
Cooper at the
moving off
3.
Zion.
I feel like you get. I mean, they're probably not getting Cooper Flag, but in this world where they get
Yeah,
Cooper
yeah,
Flag,
yeah.
it's like he's the face of the franchise. Zion,
It was
appreciate you,
wild
bro.
when they landed.
The
When they
perfect
landed, Zion
path
was
is getting Dylan Harper for them.
That would be.
That would
Do you
be the
think if
perfect
they get
path.
number 1 overall pick, they take Dylan instead?
Yeah, if you're gonna move with Zion long term, you got to take Dylan Harper.
Dylan
Man,
Harper's
that's where you
one of
lose
the
me.
best guard prospects I've ever seen.
Dylan
love
Harper's a
Cooper
dog.
Flag.
You could have Cooper Flag.
It's Dylan Harper.
Cooper Flag.
I'll be honest with
glad.
Dehls, it's 1A, 1B. Flag's 1A for me, but
Well,
Flag's
not,
been
not even
hooping recently,
more
though.
so.
Recently, he's been what we anticipated.
It's
I
just
agree.
move forward with Zion. That was the part where that lost me.
No,
Just
you're
like-
right. Cooper Flag, you'd rather move forward with him.
Exactly. Yes.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
So Brandon Miller
No
was
doubt.
taken ahead
No
of.
doubts.
Yes, no doubt. You can't trust
God.
Zion to stay on the court.
if he does, it can be a movie. But until he does, man.
At least you understand that. That's all I really care about.
So now the Hornets selected Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson, and that got a lot of backlash. And to this point, really, it's been the right decision.
Has it?
But as of recently,
Honestly,
As of the last 2 weeks,
Honestly, I don't know about that.
Scoot Henderson is
he was
playing really well.
definitely better than his rookie season.
for sure. But hey, we don't judge draft picks off
yeah.
rookie
Well,
seasons.
Brandon Miller's averaging 21 a
Also,
night.
Brandon
right
was
now.
also hurt for a portion
right
of
now.
this year.
What kind of efficiency?
Probably better than Scoot. Probably better than Scoot. Brandon Miller was averaging 21 before he got hurt.
And I'll be honest with you, some nights Brandon Miller looked like one of the best players in the league, and other nights he looked like just a guy.
Now, as of recently, Scoot Henderson has been looking really good. Last
25
games,
and 4. Come on,
25, 5,
Relax.
and 8.
I've always been
57% from the field
Quiet.
and 53% from 3. Now, he's faced the Nets, Clippers, Rockets, and Bulls. John, what do you attribute him playing so well to?
There's a couple of different
Going
things.
to John is nuts.
You
cool,
want to
man.
go right after me?
No,
You're good.
it's
Yeah.
fine. No, he
Right.
knows.
You disrespected Brandon Miller.
No, it's because he knows that I'm about to come ready with my facts. Scoot
Right.
Henderson's been hooping. Go ahead, John. I apologize.
No, he's been on a really strong run recently, the last couple of weeks, and we see this a lot of time with young guards who come into the NBA, and especially with Scoot, who had been thrust into a ton of expectations. He was being compared to the likes of Derrick Rose, John Morant, Russ, these super athletic guards, but Scoot wasn't necessarily the same caliber of an athlete, and he wasn't as a John Morant or Derrick Rose. And what kind of held him back as a rookie was he wasn't necessarily NBA ready or anywhere near as prepared for the NBA as a lot of us kind of expected. Because we saw he doesn't have that same burst, that same pop off one leg when it comes to really driving and finishing at the rim. But this year we're starting to see his three-point shot and also the touch, which we saw in Summer League. He looked like the best player there at times on the court, which is what you would expect for a top 3 pick. It's really a matter of skill development for Scoot, and that's come along this year. He's got his three-point percentage up. The mid-range shooting is not better than what it was last year, but it's really a matter of him developing the touch because that's the big swing skill for him, and I have full faith that he's had it, but it's really been a matter for these young guards being able to adjust and acclimate to the NBA. He comes into Portland, they have Shaedon Sharpe, they have Anthony Simons, but now we're starting to see them slowly get the keys to him, and I think by next year, he should be given the keys to the offense so they can fully see what he can do. But as of right now, he's playing really hot, and honestly, this is kind of what I was expecting from him when he came in the NBA. I've been a Scoot Henderson fan for a while, so it's really been awesome to see, kind of slowly but surely, that growth. I just want to see him kind of maintain this, and I do believe he can.
Scoot Henderson is shooting better from the field than Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller is shooting better than him from three-point percentage by .005.
Well, Miller has a 54% true shooting, so it's not really been good. It's kind of been similar to LaMelo
I
Ball.
understand that. Oh, no, I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Both have not been efficient. It's something about this offense. That being said, let's talk about Scoot Henderson. Now, I'm excited for Scoot. I'm happy for Scoot. I need more than 4 games. I say this because one of the biggest changes I've seen has really been his catch and shoot. He's been money over these last few games, just being one of those guys, being ready and letting it go, trusting himself. That's one thing I'm happy about. He has confidence back in his game. He's trusting his shots. That's one thing where I need more than 4 games because this is a strong hot streak he's been on shooting the 3 ball. And a lot of it where it hasn't been self-creation off the dribble, letting these threes go. A lot of it has been taking what the defense is giving him and trusting his three-point shot. Now, there has been moments where we've seen him be aggressive, get to the cup. I want to see him trust his left hand a little bit more. I've been seeing some like awkward right-hand floaters that have been going in. It's nice seeing the touch, but again, you want to trust the left hand so people don't start to just cut off the right. And now you're getting not exposed, but for lack of a better term, now we're worried about you going left, and that's a thing that defense is going, they pick up on. But this is great for his confidence. This is a team with the Trailblazers that really, their direction is development. They don't have a lot of talent. There's not a lot of strong talent on this team. There's not a lot of winning in their future, at least this season. So if we can see Scoot gain confidence throughout this season, trust himself to continue to take these shots, continue to trust himself going downhill, continue to develop as a playmaker, because we know that that's what one of his strengths really is. Absolutely. Now we really can start to get excited about Scoot. I've been loving the effort that I've been seeing out of him as well. If especially if he's making a mistake, he's still engaged. He's not quitting on himself. He's not quitting on a play. He's still trying to make the most of it. But this is a nice trailer for what we can hope can continue to become a movie. If he can just continue to be aggressive, continue to be confident in his three-point shot, then I can see this continuing to translate. Am I going to expect him to average 25 points for the rest of the season? No, nobody's expecting that. But in your sophomore season, continue to be efficient, continue to take smart shots, and just continue to develop in that light, and people will stop trying to make you the butt of every single joke.
And you know, that motor is on display when he's still playing hard when they're down 20 points, you know, because that's usually how every Blazers game goes.
The Blazers aren't great.
They're just down, and he still gets his reps in there. I really think the biggest thing for him is just the shooting, and if it can continue, then it's a bright spot right now. From the corner, he's been one of the best corner shooters.
Been fucking lights out.
He's been amazing from there. I think what Chauncey's probably telling him is that, listen, nothing else in your game is gonna work unless you can hit threes. Unless you can make defenses respect your 3-point shot, nothing else is really gonna work in your game. So I like that he hasn't been hesitating. Whenever defenders have been going under his screens, he's pulling up, he's shooting, he's not hesitating on it at all. I feel like in his rookie year, there was kind of a second thought about it, and I think now he's being more encouraged to just shoot it and let it go, and he's been averaging 7 to 8 3-point attempts over the last couple of games. So, and he's been hitting them. So I think that's a bright spot. And once he can consistently have a 3-point shot that now defenders have to worry about a little bit more, maybe going over a screen, that can now open up his game to driving lanes and, passing lanes and all that. So I think that's the number one thing in his game that has to be consistent, the 3-point shot. And that's what this year for the Blazers is about, just development and making sure that he's maximizing his ceiling for the future.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's confidence. John mentioned it. When you get touted as Derrick Rose and John Morant 2.0 and all of these insane players that had success pretty early on in your career, and then your rookie season, you go out there and by all accounts, everyone's calling you a bust, everyone's calling you trash, wrong pick, whatever it might be. It's natural that your game is just, you're not going to have the confidence that night in, night out, you're going to be able to improve. Even if you were in a different situation where you didn't have as much pressure, you're able to try some different things and, just night in, night out, not have that pressure that you were such a top draft pick, highly touted prospect. I think this season, though, it's a lot about confidence. I feel like his game is just smoother in general, like whether he's coming down off of a screen and pulling up or attacking the rim, he's not having as many hesitations there. My really only concern is one, does he become like a good shooter or is he just having a good stretch? And he's super young it's way too early to even have that discussion. But number two is just Portland in like a whole, they're just acquiring young talent, which is good, right? Like I love Shaedon Sharp's game. Scoot, Donovan Clingan's been really good as a rookie. Of course, I traded for Rob Will a couple years ago, though he's in like his late 20s at this point. But you just kind of worry that they're accumulating all of this young talent, but it's like, what are you doing with it? It's like at some point, and again, it's still super early on for Houston or for Portland, but at some point you kind of want to have like a Houston season from last year where towards the second half of the year, post All-Star break, all of a sudden you go on this run, you're like the 11th seed and you kind of flirt with that playing, because at some point, development only goes so long. Ownership and fans are going to want wins at some point. If not, Chauncey's probably going to get fired. I don't know if Chauncey's really the right person for this job, but it's good to see Scoot just have some confidence, be the player we saw he was, and the prospect we saw he was. But overall, it's been, cool to see. This is at one point a guy that should trade Jaylen Brown for, so I'm happy that eventually, hopefully he could reach that level.
There's 4 to 5 players on the Blazers I think are actually going to be with them like 3 years from now. I think that's Scoot. I think that's Shaedon. I think that's Tamani Kamara, and I think that's Clingan. That's the 4.
Yeah,
I think
Kamara's
those are the
really
only
good,
ones
really
that
good defender.
are going to be there long term. DeAndre Ayton, I think down the line will be a trade piece.
Right.
Rob will be a trade piece. Jeremy Grant, same thing. Anthony Simon, same thing. I think it's about them just figuring out their core and what they're going to
be
do
in that core.
Oh yeah, Denny Avdija. Sorry, I forgot about Denny Avdija because he was in street clothes the other day. I didn't know.
You're crazy.
Was that the only game you've watched?
No,
I want to blame
Because he's been playing very damn well.
He's been fucking cooking.
This is becoming a career year.
So then
for
it's
him
Denny
now.
Avdija. You got the 4th spot right there. So I think they have to start prioritizing their young talent more, especially Clingan. Clingan needs to be more in the mix with them and what they do.
Absolutely. I will say something this is me repeating myself. We've seen guard prospects in the past have a quiet, disappointing rookie season, and the first name I think of is De'Aaron Fox, who to me is more burst, and De'Aaron became a elite, sensational finisher in some seasons. That to me is really what Scoot should be striving to kind of reach that level as a scorer. And now I don't believe he has quite the same level of burst and pop, but if he can develop that shooting, it really can make a huge difference. And I think that's really the player that I keep coming back to, because it took De'Aaron 3 years to finally hit that stride. But once he did, he was a key building block and a franchise pillar for the Kings. So I feel like the Blazers have that. And I also have a gut feeling, too. There's nothing else that I can really say other than it's a gut feeling that they get Cooper Flag this year.
So they're in the midst of Scoot's hot streak. Denny has played 1 of the 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The most recent one being against the
balling
Bulls.
before.
Yeah, 2012. I'm not saying he's not playing well. I'm just saying.
I imagine
You're just
Denny
happy that
Cooper
he's hurt?
Flag,
No,
I
I'm saying
think that'd be a killer
of the
win to
4 games that I watched of Scoot.
Oh,
he
you're
wasn't
saying
there
that you
for-
just haven't seen Denny
He
play.
wasn't there for 3 of them.
I
Yes.
understand.
Imagine you put Cooper Flag at the 3-4 spot with Denny with Donovan Clean, Scoot Henderson, Shane Sharp.
Sounds like a
That'd
fucking movie.
be an
That
amazing.
team's winning 28 games.
Come on,
That
Dehls.
team, whoa.
He's supposed to be a Shane Sharp guy.
I like Shane
It
Sharp's
was a
game.
good joke though. Killed me.
Come on, bro.
My
But
goodness.
it's just the truth.
It's a good team in theory, John.
It is.
How many games are you going to be watching of them in the season?
Yo, Cooper Flag's gonna draw eyes.
Maybe.
Cooper Flag, yeah. He'll get a nationally televised game, maybe 2.
That's
A? Cooper?
Come
Yeah.
on.
No,
He's
he's
getting
gonna
way
get a lot
more
more.
than that. Zion had how many nationally televised games as a rookie?
Zion was different.
has way more hype.
I agree. But I feel like he can get half of that easily.
Half of that.
I just think Paulo, what Paulo's rookie year, the Magic had like none, right? They only
All right,
had
you
like
know
one
what?
or
He's
two.
making good points.
But Paulo wasn't touted the same
it's
way
the
that Cooper
Blazers,
Flag has
dude.
been.
That more than anything, that's true.
It's
yeah.
the Blazers. Like, I don't know how many
It's the
national.
Pelicans.
The OKC.
But it was
OKC got
Zion.
like less than 5
I
national
didn't say
televised games this
OKC.
year.
They had,
Oh,
like-
this year, true.
I can count
I'm
them
saying
on
if the
hand how many
first
they
seed
had.
from last year only got 5, how many do you think the Blazers are going to get just because they got Cooper Flag?
No, I look at Cooper Flag as one of the best number 1 overall pick prospects that we've seen. That says a lot because Dylan Harper go number 1 in many draft classes.
There's only so
rightfully
many
so.
national TV slots.
You're right. It's a
Yeah.
good point. Well, now with Zion being
Maybe
out
they
the
can get the
mix-
NBA TV ones.
Oh, Zion's done now.
Well, not at the mix, but with him having these injury issues.
What the
maybe-
hell's wrong with you,
No,
man?
listen,
Going
let
back
me-
and forth.
let me-
I just hate this guy.
let me rephrase
Please
what I
fix
said.
it.
Now with the Pelicans not having Zion as clearly a part of their future, they're not going to get as many national televised games.
Says who, John?
I'll be honest. I hope so.
I mean, they're not getting many nationally televised teams.
All right,
that
no.
have been
Let's see
disappointing this
Zion
season.
move on, please. I'm begging. Let's see him move on.
I think a change of scenery would be beneficial for both sides.
Definitely, I agree.
I don't want to see you guys back on the wave.
Oh, I
John
will
is
be
a
on the wave.
businessman.
I will be on the wave.
I'm sorry,
on the
no,
wave
I need
right
a
now,
side
Zion
to be
going
picked.
somewhere else.
I think Zion could be like a really good number 2 for sure.
What if you pair him with Cooper Flag?
Be interested.
I'd be excited, but he
too.
wants him gone.
Oh, well, you said move forward with Cooper Flag. Or
I
something.
believe the Pelicans should move on. Personally, I think it'd be best for both sides.
I don't even think that sounds like a good
It doesn't sound
Duo.
great. No.
Cooper Flag and Zion.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Okay.
You like that.
I do. Because Cooper Flag's a complete player.
He is a
He
complete
could do it all.
player.
Okay, so what does Zion play the 3?
No, Flag is a 3.
Okay.
That's
Zion
fine.
4.
3-4, he's a wing.
So what's your starting
understand.
lineup?
Messi's the
What's your starting
5.
On what hypothetical team is this? We're just making.
Is
All right,
DeJounte-
let's say it's the Pelicans. So it's DeJounte, Herb, Trey. Let's say CJ McCollum's coming off the bench if he's still on the
Imagine
squad.
the Pelicans win the lottery again. That'd be crazy.
That'd be
Anyways.
lit. So we have DeJounte. Let's put Herb Jones for the vibe. Let's actually put Trey Murphy
Murphy
for
at
the
the
3-point shooting. Then we'll go Cooper Flag at the 3, Zion at the 4,
Ves
Vesmisi
Misi
at the 5.
With Herb Jones off the bench.
It's 32 wins.
Herb, CJ, Jose Alvarado.
Sounds like a bunch of players running into each other. That's starting 5.
I don't love it.
He's not too wrong.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. I think if they get Cooper Flag, then it makes the decision to move on from Zion pretty easy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
easily. I mean,
And then you're
Easy to
just
sell to
repeating the
fans.
cycle. Let's just repeat the cycle.
Yeah, the
right.
difference is
AD,
they're not
Zion
they're
to
not
Flag.
trading AD this time around.
Yeah, you're getting less, I guess.
Well, maybe
It's not much of a loss. It's not as much of a loss
Yeah, no.
No, it
Well,
is
they got
that
a
much of a
haul
loss.
for
Compared to AD, no.
And
they
compared
got
to Chris Paul back then, no,
Lonzo
it's-
and Bi for AD though, and Josh Hart.
Agreed, and
that's
they-
one of
they
the biggest
kind-
hauls we've seen.
So do you think that if the Pelicans move on from Zion, Zion is the biggest beneficiary of the move, or the
Yeah,
Pelicans?
Zion.
Okay.
Pelicans got their own shit to figure out.
Yeah, I look at Zion as an incomplete franchise face. 'Cause it's hard to build around someone who's not reliable. Because you build a team for Zion to play, and then he's not available, so then the entire
doesn't
puzzle
play.
falls apart.
Yeah.
Building a
So
team
now
if
they're
somebody's
just
not there.
trying to amalgamate as much talent as they
When
can.
he is there.
So now
Smart.
they're getting CJ and DeJounte to just amalgamate as much talent as they can in preparation for Zion missing time. So
Good word, amalgamate.
I think it's the right word.
He
Could
moved
be-
me for
could
a
be.
second. I'm like, wait a minute. I haven't even heard this.
Amalgamate.
So it's really made the Pelicans
It's really-
I like
put them
being
in,
smart. Yeah,
put
let's
them in a
look
rock
it
and
up.
hard place.
It sounds right.
It's no. It sounds. When you say it with confidence, you
Yeah.
can really think about anything sounding right.
Amalgamate.
So recently, Donte Divincenzo suffered a toe injury, and he will be out indefinitely. Some say it's going to affect the entire season. He's not going to play again for Minnesota. How does this affect the Timberwolves now that Donte is not
exist.
playing for the year?
No. Just a made up word.
Where did you get that from? Did you really make it up? No.
Amalgamate.
Amalgamate. Is that like what was the definition?
Amalgamate means to combine or unite
Okay.
two or more things into one thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's what he meant.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
say.
Right.
John, that was close
Good
enough.
job,
That was
John.
close enough.
That was good. We're learning
Yeah,
every day.
I hate
Amalgate.
What do you mean? Bro, you were close.
I said amalgate.
No, it's amalgamate.
Amalgamate.
That extra syllable matters.
It's all right. So, listen, bro, if you have one person to blame, it's Joel.
I just hadn't heard that word before. I swear to God.
I've heard amalgamate. I haven't heard
Whatever the fuck.
amalgamate.
You know
Dude,
what,
you
John,
got it.
man?
It sounded better.
John, you gotta stop rolling your eyes, bro.
Yo, the
You
rolling your
gotta
eyes
stop
shit,
rolling your
it's
eyes.
like you want parts of us.
So Donte Divincenzo,
That's crazy, man.
Donte Divincenzo potentially out for the season. How does this affect Minnesota?
I mean, their 3-point shooting is going to be in shambles. He started to cook once they put him in the lineup.
He's been playing really well.
last 2 months he's played really
Yeah,
well.
so it's obviously a huge bummer for them. I think the season's cooked. I'm really not, I'm not saying just because Donte Divincenzo. I'm just talking like as a whole for their lack of spacing, their offense. Even in games where Naz Reid and Anthony Edwards have it going, you can't win a game that you were up in against. I know Memphis is still one of the better teams, but these are games that you got to close. Yep. You have one of the better players in the league in Anthony Edwards. Naz Reid, when he has it going like that, had 15 in the fourth quarter. I know I'm singling out one game.
At what point do we just start looking at Chris Finch for not playing the right lineups in these closing minutes?
We've been talking about Chris Finch all season long.
He's been playing Rob more too, so I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, but he had
and
like
moving-
17 and 15 minutes, and he didn't play in the fourth.
I'm not saying it's perfect.
I just think that we keep saying this, we need an initiator on this offense. It just comes back to that for me, and we just need consistency on the offensive side. Once you get that, the Wolves will be back and we'll be happy about their progress moving forward. But until they get that, I can't feel overly high on the Wolves.
I feel like this is best case scenario for the Timberwolves. Donte getting hurt. It's gonna sound rude, but I feel like it forces it forces Chris Finch's hand into actually playing the young talent on the team.
That's a fact.
Right.
Like now, Donte is those minutes are not gonna be there no more. They're gonna go to somebody, whether it's Rob Dillingham or Josh Minott or Terrence Shannon Jr. One of those three will benefit from it, and I think Rob Dillingham will be the beneficiary of those minutes, and he can fill a void that Donte didn't with the playmaking and the ball handling. It just takes a lot of stress off of Anthony Edwards, and I think this season, more than anything, like I think it is cooked. I think their chances of competing for a championship are non-existent. I don't think this is a high-level playoff team. When they traded Cat, I thought the move pretty much signaled that they want to rebuild and just retain their good role players for the long term. And right now, the most important thing is developing your younger talent that's going to be here for the next couple of years and seeing who that can be. So Rob Dillingham, I mean, him being a top 10 pick and not getting consistent minutes, that was always an issue. But now with Donte being out, it just makes it much easier. And I think at some point, they got to trade Julius Randle. Yeah, I don't think nobody wants Julius Randle, but they got to try as hard as possible to get Julius Randle off the team, because it's not always like this, but it is like this 50% of the time, and this was like it with the Knicks as well. Every other year, Julius Randle plays terrible. This is like with the Wolves. You know, last year with the Knicks, Julius Randle was pretty good for us, especially once we got OG. He was a big part of what we did. But the year before, he was kind of up and down. The year before that, he was really bad. And I think this is one of his bad seasons. And when he plays like this, he is pretty much a dark cloud over the team, and he is just terrible vibes, and he just brings terrible energy.
What do you think the combo of Julius Randle and AD looks like? Do you think it'll work?
I don't.
I'm being
That's not
dead
the move.
serious.
That's not the move.
Would it work?
I don't know if Julius Randle is going to work anywhere.
Get another big, another guy that can rebound the basketball.
I mean, he's best when he's like Randle
handle the ball.
is the number one for the most part. Like he did work some with Brunson, but also once Randle went out, that's when you guys were running that
cooking?
crazy
I
win
think
streak
Julius
in
Randle-
playoffs.
Julius Randle, his perfect fit is a team that has little to no expectations, that's in the mud. That's it. Like I think the Hornets would be great for him.
Hornets
Hey,
would
Utah?
move me.
Yeah, no, yeah, I
team with a
think
bunch of
a young
spacing.
team that wants to inject some talent to maybe make a play and push. I think that's like the perfect.
Do you
team
think
for
he would be
Julius
a
Randle.
poison in Detroit?
I'd rather have Tobias. I'd
That's
rather
not-
Yeah, I don't
stay
think
with
Detroit.
Tobias.
I don't
You
like
know what I
that's
mean?
kinda
Like
nasty.
I know Detroit's on the rise. Do you think that that's one of like they could? That's a cheap option for them.
Like looking at the teams, really. Like I'm looking at the Eastern Conference. Washington, no. Toronto, no. I really just think Charlotte is like the only team. that it makes somewhat sense for him to go to.
Toronto, I don't hate.
Post
Scotty
Jimmy,
Barnes,
post Jimmy
RJ
World, he
Barrett.
goes to Miami. He's not really a Heat culture guy, is
Yeah,
he?
that makes sense somewhat if you move off of Jimmy and you just want to maybe stay competitive.
Yeah, I can
You
see
know,
that.
but there are very few teams that Julius Randle actually makes sense on. But
Right.
I don't hate the
I think
Heat,
he's just-
actually.
he's just a dark cloud right now for the Wolves. But now with Donte's injury, you know, those minutes open up for Dillingham. And when Dillingham has been on the court, he's shown what he can do. And that's why
And limited
it's been so frustrating because Chris Finch sees what he can do and doesn't play him. And they excuse it by saying, oh, defensive liability, this and that. Like, man, you just need somebody that can handle the ball and get buckets. And that's what Dillingham does.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to go as far to say this is a best case scenario or a good case because
I know. I understand the sentiment.
yeah, but Dante's been playing really well as a starter. He's averaging 15 this last like 8 games or so. He's averaging 15, 40% from 3, 3% from the field. Of course, taking mostly threes, but he's been really good these last 7 or 8 games when he's been injected into the starting lineup. And this team has needed offense, but I mean the bigger issue here is Julius Randle. Like the experiment, the trade, whatever you want to call it, it's another failure, right? Like I understand the sentiment behind it where, okay, in the future, you'll have more cap space and you'll be able to have all this flexibility and whatnot. But it stings when Karl-Anthony Towns is over there in New York putting up career numbers and the vibes over in New York are fantastic and you're the number 3 seed and everything else that has gone into Karl-Anthony Towns having such a great year. And on the other hand, you have Julius Randle just not really able to hold up his end of the bargain. For Donte himself, though, it is bad because to start off the year, he was so terrible. Right? I remember those October numbers. It was gross. I mean, under 30% from 3. It was really ugly. So it was good to see him finally get into a rhythm. Like you mentioned, Joel, he had been playing better in general over these last couple of months, but specifically as a starter, has been playing probably his best basketball. So right when things are starting to flow, he goes out. But I agree with you. I mean, the problems are beyond Julius Randle, too. I think you could look at Chris Finch, like you mentioned, the Rob Dillingham kind of sporadic minutes. And Anthony Edwards fucks with Rob. You could tell, like in the post-game interview, Anthony Edwards went over to Rob when he was interviewing him. He's like, yeah, this is like my little bro here. And Rob embraces that too. So it's obvious Ant is like trying to push for it because Ant understands too that this team needs some juice offensively. Like shout out to Mike Conley, everything he does. But as a point guard that actually has some juice and some scoring capability, that's really what Minnesota needs. They have a lot of issues on offense. It's not just that, the spacing, Julius Randle, what Gobert limits you, what Jaden limits you. There's a lot of issues that go beyond just 1 or 2 players. But I think having Rob, having some of these younger players involved is going to help. But big picture, it's hard to see Minnesota as anything more than like a first-round exit team.
Right, absolutely. I think this injury absolutely blows because of how well he was playing, how important his role can be. Obviously, with the starting lineup, it's not a good fit with Randle and Gobert. And I think they made that move, and we've talked about this before, because of the ownership situation in Minnesota, right? They had their deal, which was supposed to be installments with Alex Rodriguez, your guy, and Mark Lowry basically put on halt because Glenn Taylor pulled back and said, I don't think you guys have the necessary cash to actually pay and buy this team. So then you look at the situation where
It's insane.
you have Karl-Anthony Towns getting $60 million a year, and they basically said, we're not certain that we can pay that luxury tax down the line. We're going to trade him now for multiple players and then have the affordability to extend multiple guys moving forward. And that put them in this situation, this season where it's a transitional year. It's a developmental season. It's an opportunity to develop guys like Rob Dillingham and utilize Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker more. But all of these guys are coming off the bench. But the starters themselves have not clicked this season because Cat last year was the glue that put it all together, right? Their first year at Gobert, he was sick to start the season. He missed time. Last year, they had the chemistry. Cat did a lot of the little things that Randle has really not. And Randle is a player who still has the same exact strengths that he had with the Knicks. The difference is those have not been highlighted because of the fact that he needs to be in a spot where there's a lot of space and he gets a lot of open threes for his teammates. He's a good playmaker, but he's a post-centric player and really a mid-range assassin. He can be that interior player where he can get you efficient, and I wouldn't really say efficient as much as he'll produce for you. But we need to put him in a situation where it's really going to maximize him as a playmaker. But with Jaden, with Rudy Gobert, and then Mike Conley, slow start to the year too, it's just really not an ideal group. There's no juice and there's no secondary creation.
You got Ant 0 for 12 on game-winning go-ahead baskets
Yeah,
inside the game.
the
0 for
only
12.
person
Yeah,
that's
I
worse
knew
is
this was
LeBron.
coming. Like you shouldn't have brought it up. I didn't bring it up on purpose.
Well, I don't
No,
give a
the
fuck
only
about
person
LeBron.
is LeBron that has, so
Yeah,
worse
it's tough.
at his shot. So, that just basically means that he's on the right trajectory.
Well, no, it's not. It's LeBron since Ant has gone into the league. The only one that has worse attempts is LeBron.
No, LeBron started his career 0 for 19.
Was it his start of his career? I thought it was since he entered the league.
Yeah, on go ahead, like game time buckets. That's why the narrative of LeBron not being like
Clutch
started.
Yeah, that was stupid.
Yeah, so 0 for 19. So, Ant's on the right path. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Let me make sure.
I think the Timberwolves have pretty much.
Okay, I thought so. Anthony Edwards is now 0 for 12 on go-ahead/game tying field goals in the last 5 seconds of fourth quarters or overtime. LeBron's the only other player with more attempts without a make since Ant was drafted.
It's funny because like all of those numbers, like obviously over 12 hasn't hit
So
shit.
LeBron hasn't made those shots.
Since he was drafted, he's 0 for 19.
I feel like he's made those shots.
I know, so have I.
But all of those numbers are low. Like you look at those, like you do that in like fucking Pro Basketball Reference or whatever. It's
Nobody's
like,
efficient.
It's like there's like 2 people above like 40%.
Yeah, but that moment that Ant hits that shot is gonna be special, man.
He's due.
It's gonna be special.
He is due.
I feel like the Timberwolves have completely botched building around Anthony Edwards. It's gonna be tough because when he was first drafted to the team got the first overall pick because of some injuries, not because they lacked talent.
Yeah.
So you already had Ant drafted to a team that had Karl Anthony Towns, and then they had D'Lo as well, and they accelerated the rebuild by trading for Rudy Gobert. So they traded multiple first-round picks to go get him. The first year, we have to remember, like what the Wolves are experiencing is pretty much how the first year with Cat and Rudy Gobert felt like. Like this, it felt like it was a disaster. Everything was bad. I think this is an even worse situation because now that we've seen them make the conference finals, they trade Cat, and really, what's the flexibility you have outside of cap space for your team? You don't have draft picks, so even if the Timberwolves are bad, they're not going to get a top pick in the draft. And the flexibility with the cap space, if you re-sign Naz Reid and Alexander Walker, and you still have Ant and Jaden and Gobert, you don't really have that much cap space to even work with anyway in the offseason unless you trade off Gobert or Jaden. It's going to be really hard to build around Anthony Edwards. Like, they basically need to bank on all their current young players right now becoming good NBA players. Not just Dillingham. Like, Dillingham actually has to become like an all-star. The other players have to become serviceable. Like, Terrence Shannon Jr. has to become a good rotational player. Like, in order for this trade not to go down as a disaster.
Yeah, like, God forbid Jaden McDaniels worked on his offensive game.
I mean, with Julius Randle taking so many shots, he can't really do that.
That was
not put in a
before Randle
situation.
got there.
But that was my biggest concern about this trade was outside of if I was a Timberwolves fan, I'd be pissed because you just made the conference finals. Now you're trading our second best player.
So stupid.
But beyond that, it's cap space. It's hypothetical, man, because you have cap space and you have the possibility to make moves, but you have to make the right moves. Like the 76ers this past offseason, they made all the right moves. They opened up a max slot. They got Paul George, and now they're having their worst season in probably the Embiid era where they're like the fucking 8 seed or some shit. I guess they were the 8 seed last year, but they were majority of the season out of the fucking play-in.
Yeah.
So like having all this cap space and this flexibility and all this stuff sounds good. And in 2K, when you could go and sign a 90 overall player and that means your team gets better, that works. But in the real NBA, you have to find players that are going to fit a team that you have to give good contracts to, because if you give a bad contract to them, you're not going to be able to move off of them. So you're really banking on the Timberwolves and their front office and ownership and all of these leadership positions to make the right moves. And I get why you trust them, because last season they made the conference championship and it looked like the Gobert trade was good and Cat was good and all of this. The younger places like Naz Reid and Nikhil and Jaden have all hit. But now it's time to take a next step, because you took a step back. You can't stay here. You took a step back to take 2 steps forward, and it doesn't look like right now they're going to be able to do that.
Would we still be having this conversation at the cap? Not right now, but I feel like in the playoffs we would still.
Low-key, they were damned if they do, damned if they don't, John.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, if Cat's on this team right now, I think that, last year when we had the topic about what top 4 seed in the West is the biggest pretender, Minnesota was by far and away everybody's answer. So I think Minnesota, even this year, we all looked at as a team that wasn't going to win the championship. And
we said the Clippers.
But the top 4.
I thought most of
weren't they?
Top 4 was, I think it was the Nuggets, OKC, Minnesota, and I think, did Dallas eventually get the top 4 seed?
They did,
Or
and
5, I think.
they were all right. So because I remember, regardless,
Clippers were 4.
Forget about it. I'm sorry for even saying that. The sentiment's right though. We didn't have much expectation for them come playoff time. That's the sentiment.
And if they didn't trade Cat,
were 4.
then Naz Reid leaves, Nickeil Alexander-Walker leaves, and I mean, it's an all-star for two like role players, and Nasri, I know is upper level, but still, you know,
Nasri balls.
they would have still needed their young players to develop, but I don't know. It's just they're kind of stuck, like you said. It didn't matter what kind of direction they went in. This was the bullet that they were eventually going to bite. They're just biting it much earlier.
I think it just also hurts that Julius Randle was like the main piece that you got back to.
It also hurts because Cat's having the best year of his
He's a
career.
depreciating asset.
Cat looks fucking awesome.
If the ownership, the team wasn't half on sale, and ownership wasn't a question, Cat would still be on the team right now.
So you think that played a big part in it?
Why else did they make that trade so late in September?
Cat being this cool too, like it should give you hope that Tatum can get re-cool.
That deal is made what, like September 20?
No one's ever gonna think Tatum's cool. I've accepted it.
That's insane because when he first came out, I'll be honest with you, he was so fire.
Yeah, fine out.
Now moving on to the NFL portion of the podcast.
It's funny that we're finally just getting there an hour and 40 minutes into it, and the background is literally all basketball, all football.
Yeah.
John, bro.
No.
Technically,
we looked
an
at it
hour-
before and didn't say a
doing my
damn
thing.
thing.
Technically, an
I'm doing
hour
my
and
thing,
20
man.
minutes.
We did the first 20 or
Yes.
Cooking.
Technically. So, first NFL topic. Did Lamar Jackson help his playoff reputation?
God.
Joel, the answer is no. The only way to have fixed his playoff
It
reputation
didn't
or
hurt
help
it or help it.
No, the only way for it to have been helped was if he won. The main issue is that when Lamar goes up against the top-notch teams in the playoffs, he's fallen short. He's lost twice to the Bills. He has lost to the Chiefs. He lost to the Titans, which, let's be honest, that was inexcusable regardless.
Well, that was Derrick Henry.
That was a
going
minute
ham.
ago, but you were MVP unanimously.
I'll
They
be
won
honest,
14 games.
The
It was-
great
And
Roman
Titans
years,
controlled
I
that
don't
game,
give a
though,
fuck
on the
about.
ground, man.
Joel, don't do that.
Because we're talking about a different quarterback.
All right.
We're talking about...
Let's
He
do
was
it.
unanimous MVP.
It's all right. No. Let's do it. Todd Monken has been given unbelievable praise for helping aid. I'm using those two words specifically. Helping aid Lamar Jackson to his most efficient passing seasons. What have they tried to prove these last two playoff runs? That Lamar Jackson is an elite passer, right? Kind of how it feels.
Well, I think
because
it's-
against I just want to finish this. Apologize.
Yeah.
Because against the Chiefs last year, they did not run the ball for whatever reason. It was mind-numbing to all of us. It was obvious that was their weakness. Why aren't you exploiting it when you're one of the best rush offenses in the league? This year, the first time you match up against the Buffalo Bills, Derrick Henry goes for over 200 yards, carries the ball over 20 times, and is the X factor as to why you not only win, but blow out Buffalo. In a rematch, you don't factor in Derrick Henry as much as you probably should have in this game. Now, I understand game script. It was 21-7 very quickly, very early on. And you had to adjust, you had to pivot. But regardless to that fact, why are we going away from what we know works to why? To aid Lamar Jackson's narrative?
The Bills were stopping the run.
They were.
in the
first
second
half-
half, they were not.
In the third quarter,
no.
you're right.
In the
But
second
in the first half, they were shutting it down.
They were able
But
to run the
don't
ball.
stop it.
I think
you
the
don't
difference-
quit when you have Derrick.
Last year against the Chiefs, they were not running the ball. Like, they straight
they
up were
didn't.
just like,
I
we're just
agree.
going to throw the fucking ball for whatever reason. Didn't work out.
Spags doing the
This year, I feel like in the first half, they tried running the ball. Derrick Henry could not get loose. Like, they were not really able to do anything with the run. Of course, passing the ball, they had the turnover. So you could say what you want, but for the majority of the time, they were able to move the ball. There wasn't a lot of possessions where the Bills just stifled them completely, right? Whether it's the pass or the run. It was
Particularly
just
second half.
it was just the turnovers. Like, I think the Ravens only punted one time in that game. If I'm remembering correctly, I could go back and double check, but it wasn't like Bills were forcing them 3 and out. They weren't able to move the ball. It's just they were either scoring or turning the ball over in that first half.
You know, I think the easy answer to this is no. Lamar Jackson didn't help his playoff reputation. He didn't hurt it because it wasn't a disaster of a game, right? He didn't play terrible for all 4 quarters. He only played terrible for the first 2 quarters. He had those 2 turnovers, and he played really well in the second half. He played great, like near flawless in the second half. But you cannot ignore the 2 first half turnovers that was a 10-point swing. The fumble that he had was in field goal territory, and then the Bills scored a touchdown on that
They
turnover.
did
puts them in
score.
deep in
Was that
Baltimore.
not because of the PI? Was that
was.
okay? I thought so.
So when I
Must
look
be nice.
when I look at the turnovers that Lamar Jackson had,
All the calls.
you just cannot excuse that. There have been 3
agree.
times that Lamar Jackson was favored past the wild card round in the playoffs. It was outside of the Texans game, but the 3 games that stick out: the Titans, the Chiefs, and the Bills. In all 3 of those games, Lamar Jackson was the favorite. Against the Chiefs, you had the most historic defense in NFL history. Against the Titans, they had a bye week. They were the best team in the NFL. And against the Bills, they were favorites on the road. In those games, Lamar Jackson has combined for 7 turnovers. He had 3 against the Titans. He had 2 against the Chiefs last year. He had 2 against the Bills this year. The reason why the Bills won this game is because they didn't turn the ball over. Even though Lamar Jackson might have had more yards, he also had to work larger lengths of the field
twice as hard
because
too.
of the hole that they dug themselves in. And then you look at the stat that Lamar Jackson is 0-5 in playoff games when the opposing team scores 14 points or more. I mean, that's the standard. 14 points? Like Lamar Jackson is a multiple-time MVP.
Might be a 3-time.
I feel like I just can't help but feel like if this was Josh Allen and roles were reversed, this is the only thing we'd be fixating on.
We already do this with Lamar. What do you mean if this was Josh Allen? Lamar has gotten
What do
shit
you mean?
year
Lamar
in and year
Jackson's
out.
getting
Lamar's
nothing
been
but
defending-
excuses in the
Lamar's been
media right
defending
now.
last-
No, I would
defended
say
last
this
year.
game, Lamar has gotten more defense than I was expecting.
Right.
Way more. But we're not going to act like up until this point, Lamar has not got shit on.
You're
Yeah,
right.
because he's deserved it. He's not played
Absolutely.
No, but Josh Allen
he has got shit on.
has-
That's what I'm saying.
No, I think Joel's sentiment here is Josh Allen would have gotten shit on if this was a performance like Lamar's. Why is that? Because all we've seen Josh do, majority of what we've seen Josh do in the playoffs
been awesome
is
playoff
uplift
performance.
and be amazing.
What I'm saying is, I don't think that the way that we're propping up Lamar Jackson
agree
for the
with
second
this
half,
wholeheartedly.
Josh Allen would have been propped
No,
up the
he would
same
not
way.
have.
Because I remember when he lost to the Chiefs multiple times, Ron Clark went up on ESPN and said, "Smoke your stats at home. You didn't take the dub." And Josh Allen played a great game with no turnovers. But Lamar Jackson, after this game, Ron Clark is tweeting, "You did your job, number 8. This wasn't on you." Even if you believe that the game was on Mark Andrews, which I believe he had big fault in it, he's at least responsible for 50% and Lamar is the other 50%. Like this is not a scenario where Mark
hate it.
Andrews has all the blame and Lamar
Right, you're
Jackson
right.
has none.
I only say this where I said this on the live. I still feel the same way. Joel, I share a lot of your same sentiments. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but when it comes to the blame, this is where it gets rocky for me because I don't think Lamar played great. I don't think so. Far from. Those 2 turnovers matter. And yes, we can. I keep talking about the ticky-tack nonsense DPI. Regardless, it led to points. Whether that was PI or not, it led to points. So yes, your turnover led to points. I still look at it from a glass half full lens as well, where the turnovers matter, but you had a chance to right your wrongs with 1 drive, and in my opinion, he did. They didn't get the 2-point conversion. Is that on Lamar Jackson? No, it is not. Mark Andrews should have caught that ball, and Mark Andrews also should not have fumbled that ball early on.
No.
But the same can be said for Lamar Jackson throwing that INT. The
his
same can
fumble
be
is
said for
huge.
Lamar fumbling. That's where I'm with you, Joel. But when it comes to blame, it's hard because one's first half, one's in a game-winning, game-losing, game-tying situation. Can you be your best? I watched Lamar Jackson be his best.
Here's the thing that I struggle with the Lamar Jackson stuff, because in order to praise a player, I think we hold them to a different standard now. Lamar Jackson, over the last 2 regular seasons, Dehls was saying it all year long. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, right? He's playing better than Patrick Mahomes. He's all this, he's all that. But then when it comes to these moments in the playoffs, we don't hold them to Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes standards. We hold them to a lower standard than what his regular season numbers have been. All year long, he has not turned the ball over.
After this game, would you argue we don't do that anymore?
You still have to hold Lamar Jackson to the standard of a multiple-time MVP.
That's-
I will say
that's what I mean.
That's the standard, but the expectation. Now we go into the playoffs and we don't have those same expectations for Lamar Jackson because we just have seen it enough times that he doesn't live up to those expectations.
So you think this was the last game where we have the expectation you're going to be a superstar in a playoff game?
My expectation next year for Lamar in the
It's the-
playoffs
I
is to be a
agree.
superstar.
You have to be
'cause
a
he's
superstar.
He has to be that, but I will say, do I have belief that he can consistently?
different things.
No,
Oh, you're
I
tweaking.
don't. I don't.
It's two different things.
I don't.
I saw Lamar win 90 yards with
he
fucking
did.
3 minutes with nose day flowers with no shoddy B go right down that field and put a team in position to tie the game. If that's I don't have faith in him. I know you've never been a Lamar guy. You tried this year, which respect, whatever, do what you got to do because he had such a historic season. How could you not? But to be like, oh yeah, I just don't have faith going forward. He's not going to be that guy. That's fine.
In the playoffs,
he has to prove it.
The best 3 quarterbacks in the league we can agree is Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson.
By far.
Correct?
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes, 47 total touchdowns, 9 turnovers in the playoffs.
That's the GOAT. Keep
Josh
going.
Allen, 30 total touchdowns, 6 turnovers in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson, 12 total touchdowns, 11 turnovers in the playoffs. You're telling me you still have belief in Lamar to
Yes,
perform at the
because
level of
the
Josh
last-
Allen and Patrick Mahomes?
The last 4 playoff games with Todd Monken, I think it's 9 touchdowns, 4 turnovers.
Was I
The
supposed
last
to
four-
lose belief
30
in
and
Peyton
6,
Manning?
but
Like, realistically speaking, was I, as a Peyton Manning diehard fan, supposed to lose faith in Peyton Manning to not be a superstar in the playoffs? The answer is no.
The last 4 games argument for Lamar Jackson, I think, paint a prettier picture than it actually is.
because he's a different quarterback. The other numbers are from 2020 and beyond.
That's not why. Because
5 years
versus
ago.
his first playoff game this year was the Steelers game, correct?
Yes.
Last year, first playoff game was the Texans,
yes.
right? Against the Chiefs and the Bills. 4 turnovers in those 2 games.
Yeah, I agree with this.
Yeah.
This is where I'm with Joel again. These are against the top-notch teams. When we need Lamar Jackson to be a superstar, he has failed to be that level. Now, for the entire game, whether it's fair or not, that's not for me to decide. But when you are a multiple-time MVP, unfair expectations get put onto your shoulders. Now, shout out to Carson. I'll pull up the tweet. But it talks about Josh Allen going up against top 10 defenses and top 3 defenses. He's still the same guy. It can't be that we're going up against the Chiefs and the Bills and now we're folding. And again, Joel, I've been very adamant. I think when we needed to call his number, he was the best version of himself. Is why
I'm looking at Josh's number. Sorry to cut you off.
That's
the
fine.
last 4 games against Pittsburgh and Denver. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He has well over 500, 600 total yards. Against the Chiefs and the Ravens, he has a combined, still got 4 touchdowns, but a passer rating under 90.
Well, that's because of the Ravens game. What did he just do in the Chiefs game?
He had, so total yards, he had about 250. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 passing, 2 rushing, an 86 passer rating. 67% completion
All
percentage.
right, I'll read the stats that I was alluding to. Shout out to Carson Breber. Give him a follow. You know him from Nerd Sesh. Legend. He put out a bunch of great stats. Josh Allen's all-time ranks in the playoffs. This is with a minimum of 8 games played. 312 total yards per game. That's first. 2.5 total touchdowns per game. That's second. 5.8 touchdown to interception ratio. That's first. 5.2 touchdown to turnover ratio. That's second. Versus top 10 scoring defenses. 302 total yards per game. 27 touchdowns. Only 2 turnovers. Versus top 3 scoring defenses. 289.8 total yards per game. 11 touchdowns. 0 turnovers. And I say this with love because I don't like slandering Lamar Jackson. I told you, I'm here for the ride now. I still believe that he has a Peyton Manning level trajectory to his career. It's night and day between him and Josh Allen in the playoffs. It's night and day between him and Mahomes. I don't even include Mahomes in these conversations because we know it's different. Against the best teams, it's not wrong of us to want you to be a 9 out of 10.
And that's why Allen is the better quarterback. And I think even if in the regular season you think Lamar was better, I think Josh Allen cemented himself as he's the second best quarterback in the league.
He's got to do it next week.
But
He
Joel,
goes out there and does the same shit he did against the Ravens. I'm not jacking the second best quarterback. Fuck no. You cannot have back-to-back games under 200 total goddamn yards and be the second best quarterback.
Allen
in the
has
league.
an entire playoff sample size that he's a better playoff player than Lamar Jackson.
So if he does what he just did against the Ravens and he wins.
And Mahomes has a couple turnovers and they win off a couple like a fumble or some shit.
But the thing is, do we anticipate Mahomes to have
we
turnovers?
also have to understand that the game that Josh Allen just had against the Ravens, that is an anomaly. It almost rarely
That's
we call it
his worst
it's an
performance in how long?
It's in due part
years.
to Lamar Jackson. Second half, I think the Ravens defense played outstanding. I give them that credit. But in the first half, they really didn't have to do much because field possession was in their favor.
Lamar fumbled and put him inside the 25. Baltimore, I mean, it helped. I feel like the playoffs often come down to what team blinks first, what team makes the first mistake. I believe Lamar, the same sentiment I share, Lamar stepped up big time in the second half without his top 2 receivers at a point with Mark Andrews. Cost them. I think he was the biggest reason they lose because Lamar did enough to win the game, yes, but he was the one that put them in that hole. And so often in the playoffs, it's the quarterback that takes the best care of the football. That's with Allen. That's been 3 years since they had turnover in the playoffs. And so when you're having these convos, a lot of the time it's who makes the first error, and that's going to allow the other team to play off of that. When you're giving Buffalo short fields and Josh is just protecting a 1-2 score lead, he doesn't have to go out there and lead a 90-yard drive the way Lamar had to because of those 2 turnovers.
I will tell you this, though. If Mark Andrews had caught the 2-point conversion, I had full faith that Josh Allen was about to drive down the field and win the game for the Bills.
If they hit the field goal, another story based
I
off
don't know.
last year.
That Ravens defense had been clutch.
I thought Josh Allen was about to do it. Maybe, that's a hypothetical. Lamar Jackson will always be compared to Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning is the only other multiple-time MVP that is a playoff dropper. Even in his 2 Super Bowl runs, he wasn't that good. With the Broncos, he was washed. With the first time with the Colts,
3
touchdowns,
in AFC
7
Championship
interceptions
history against the GOAT.
But
stop.
Peyton Manning, before that final season with the Broncos, he had a losing record in the playoffs. The 3-0 in that run put him above 500 by 1 game.
We can't forget what he did.
Run.
Agreed. But we can't forget what he did against the Patriots. 2 touchdowns, 39 years old, barely could throw the football against the GOAT.
So Josh becomes the second best quarterback in the NFL because he beat Lamar Jackson, who you don't trust in the playoffs.
I thought
Don't reach on that now.
I thought Josh Allen has been the second best
because he hasn't beaten
quarterback
anybody else in the playoffs. He's just beating Lamar Jackson, who he doesn't trust. So I just want to make sure.
I think Josh Allen
Allen
has been the second best quarterback. It's not about the head-to-head matchup. Okay. I think Josh Allen has been the second best quarterback.
Why do you constantly pretend like he didn't come off the field winning with 13 seconds left? Stop letting that slip.
I mean, we can play in hypotheticals all the world. What if Mark Andrews doesn't fumble? What if he doesn't drop the 2-point conversion?
If he didn't drop it, then it would have been a tie game.
Let me
it's
ask
not
you
like
guys
they
a
win.
question.
No, it's not. But it's a hypothetical. It's all hypothetical.
No,
13
but
seconds
it's
is
a
13
tie.
seconds and he's still
It's not
lost.
like he wins the game. It's a tie. What's concrete fact? With 13 seconds left, Josh Allen walked off the field with the belief, I won. His defense sold him on 2 plays. 2 plays.
13 seconds.
And then they didn't get the ball back in OT.
Let me ask you guys something.
But bro, you're being
I don't know what to tell you. It sucks.
crazy.
Let me ask you guys a question.
I respect it,
It
but
sucks.
damn.
I'm not saying it
He's
sucks.
consistent,
I
man.
get
And
it.
this
Buffalo
the
Bills,
last
they went to
thing-
fucking 5 Super Bowls, lost all of them. They had that. It's ass.
But is it on Josh?
I'm not saying it's not Josh.
But you're
Josh.
saying you don't trust Lamar, but the only quarterback that Josh has beat is Lamar.
It's facts.
But as if Josh hasn't played high-level football
Absolutely.
Against the best of our generation.
No, absolutely. Unfortunately, came up short.
But
Let me ask you guys
it's
this
a
question.
team game in that regard.
I agree. Definitely
In
a team
that
game.
regard.
Like, for example, if it was just quarterback versus quarterback this past week, I don't know. The advanced numbers say Lamar was a better quarterback.
Okay,
But it's
you're
a
moving
team
nasty,
game,
Joel.
and because of
Numbers?
it's a team game, you had Mark Andrews fumbling and dropping 2-point conversions.
He
the other
did.
team.
I'm
That's
not
like
here
a-
saying Lamar
tough.
Jackson's
That's
the only reason they
tough.
lost, though.
Let me say this. Josh Allen, in all the series that started with a pass against the Ravens, the Bills had a 100% success rate. When they decided to pass the ball, they had a 100% success rate with Josh Allen. When the start of a series, they were running the ball so well that they didn't really need to lean into it. They had an 80% success rate on the ground, but Josh Allen still had a very good EPA per play in this game. And I want to finish off this because I want to ask you guys this final question. How many quarterbacks right now currently do you trust in the playoffs more than Lamar Jackson?
Currently in the playoffs?
No, currently in the NFL.
Oh, excuse me.
Mahomes.
Mahomes.
I think Josh.
Burrow.
Matthew Stafford.
Matty, for sure.
Stafford's.
Is there one more?
I'm going to be
quarterback?
honest.
Jaden Daniels?
Yes.
Nah.
Lamar's never won.
Jaden does it against Philly this
All right,
upcoming
I
week.
agree. I agree with
Lamar
this.
hasn't
Sure.
won.
But
TBD
Jaden
on
Daniels
Jaden.
already did something Lamar never did.
Lamar's won
But
2
he won
consecutive
back-to-back
playoff
playoff games.
But you're talking about the 2 games in rose-colored lenses against the Steelers, against the Texans. It's against Tampa Bay. It's against Detroit.
Detroit was the number 1 seed.
the one
Agreed.
seed. They won 14
I'm not going to
games.
disagree, but we
He hung
understand
on
that
45.
defense was riddled with injuries.
He hung up 45.
I'm not going to disagree. He dominated. He dominated well more than I ever thought, more than anyone thought. But that defense was banged up terribly.
That's the same
Terribly.
defense that
This
looks really
question
good
is-
while being up, though.
It looked very good against Sam Darnold, who now, when we now have hindsight 2020, He was a fraud.
A lot of that
Jimmy
was
G?
Sam missing.
I
There
do
was dudes
give a
That's a
lot of
fact.
respect to Jaden Daniels for beating the number one
Me too.
seed.
I do too.
They won 15 games this past year, and Jaden Daniels he won consecutive playoff games, and he's playing. You can argue
Lights
the
out.
best of any quarterback currently in the NFL
I'm fine
playoffs.
with this.
This is a question for you specifically. Who do you trust more in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts?
Lamar.
Jalen Hurts takes care of the football. I'm taking Jalen Hurts.
He's taking 7 sacks, the best whole
If
line.
Jalen Hurts,
He's taking
if
7
Jalen Hurts
sacks.
is in with the Ravens quarterback, what's the score of that game?
Say it again.
If Jalen Hurts is the Ravens quarterback, what's the score of that game?
They probably win the game.
Oh God, Jalen Hurts is doing 90 yards down the field.
I know for a fact that Derrick Henry's getting 20 attempts at least.
So there are 6 quarterbacks you trust in the playoffs more than Lamar: Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Stafford, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts.
I don't know about Jaden Daniels yet. Only for the fact of, again,
It's a conversation.
but I watched against a pretty great defense. Jalen Hurts go out there, throw for over 300, have 4 total touchdowns in a Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Lamar Jackson's never had a game that good in the postseason.
No. Jalen Hurts is. I mean, Lamar still had
Texans
more
game
good
was close.
playoff games than Hurts, in my opinion. He's had 2 or 3.
2 in the first 2 rounds of the
Listen,
postseason.
you don't got to tell me about Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. He was out of this world, probably the best game compared to Lamar. Like, he's number one, duh. But since then,
I also unless you're telling me to like completely rule out 2022.
I'm not.
Okay,
No. You
because
definitely
against the Giants, they
didn't
won
do
in the
shit.
first quarter.
They didn't do
won
shit.
in the first
Same
quarter.
thing against San Fran.
Against
Didn't
San
do shit.
Fran, they won in the first quarter.
I don't take anything away from him, but I'm also not giving him credit for it. You know, like
And then against the Rams, he started out guns blazing.
first drive was beautiful.
He was fantastic. Where it went downhill for the offense was the A.J. Brown drive. Offense, the pass offense was the A.J. Brown drop. And then he started to hesitate, started to second guess. He shouldn't do that. The sacks, again, I agree. I think a lot of it, whether we want to give credit or not, that Rams defensive line was star-studded. They were fantastic. It was one of the best performances I've seen on that Eagles offensive line.
Easily, yeah.
Jalen Hurts
most
also...
of the sacks were over 3.5 seconds.
But then, honestly, they played great coverage on the Eagles, too.
Yeah, no, for sure. They had a good game plan.
They were a great defense, and that's something I said coming in. This was going to be a close-ass game because this Rams defense had been playing at another level. Yes, there were some sacks where I'm going to look at Jalen, for sure. But a majority of them, Verse was right in his face. He was making his presence felt. Fisk was right in his face, making his presence felt. And then the secondary did a amazing job.
Jalen Hurts, of every quarterback in the divisional round, he was last in EPA per play. And that's behind Jared Goff, who had 4 turnovers.
That's where, again, EPA is so fucking wishy-washy.
Well, he took a safety and then 6 sacks.
I understand that. Jared Goff was dog shit.
Off at 3, yeah.
But the Lions were, when they didn't turn the ball over, were moving the ball.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it's pretty
why
impressive.
was that, though? It was straight up, here you go, Jameer.
That's true.
Please do everything for us.
Yeah, I mean, but it's pretty impressive to score 30 points and having 4 turnovers. You know, like,
No,
it's
but they
pretty nuts.
dominated the ground.
Yeah, not
They
against the
dominated the ground.
Absolutely.
I'd say 4 quarterbacks. I think you got Josh Mahomes, you got Stafford, and Burrow. I think those 4 are fair.
Jalen,
If Jaden does this against Philly, hats off.
not even saying
he goes,
Jaden.
not even win, but he goes out there and has what he's been doing. I'm fine with it because he's been so fucking good, and Philly's defense is so damn elite.
not that I'm here trying to paint a beautiful picture for Jalen Hurts, because again, I think he's been okay in these playoffs. I think he's taking care of the football. You can take sacks. I agree that's not the greatest, but you're not at least giving the opposing team the ball back. In 2 games, he's thrown for around, 250? Something around that for 250 yards. He has over 100 rushing combined in the first 2 games. So over 360 yards total, has 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's what he's needed to do.
He's
He's
game
had to
managing.
take care of the ball.
He's game
You
managing.
don't need to do more. That's
Didn't
why
he fumble against the Rams, though?
they got it back.
Okay. Didn't he almost throw an interception, too? When it was down the sideline, when corner was chasing A.J. Brown. He left it inside, and the corner had his hands on it. He just dropped the ball.
I think so. Maybe.
I don't know if you remember that play, but PFF has him charted with 2 turnover-worthy plays against the Rams. Against the Packers, he took care of the ball.
Listen, if you want to say like Jalen Hurts has been doing his job, taking care of the ball, playing smart, you're not getting an argument for me.
I think Lamar tried to do too much in that first half.
I think that's fair. And it's a yin and yang, right? Like, to me, it's just I've seen Jalen Hurts play at such a higher level that when he plays like this, it's like you're winning, so I'm not gonna be mad at it. But I'm also not going to go out there and praise you for what you're doing.
I'm fine with this.
Because
I get
you're
it.
a better quarterback than what you've been showing.
And I'm not going to disagree with you. But in the sentiment of He knows how to play a winning game.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts does it as good as anyone. And I know it sounds like I'm defending someone who is subpar average. Jalen Hurts has shown when you need him to be great, he can be. That 43-yard rushing touchdown, that wasn't manufactured. That was Jalen Hurts being better, evading, getting rid of defenders off of him, and being able to.
But it was a great run.
It was a good run.
Still, you have to break that tackle, and you still have to be fast enough.
Guy, man.
But it doesn't
No,
matter.
the offensive line, Jordan Mailata was running down free because he had no one to block.
He ran 19 miles an hour. There's only been 2 guys that have more 19-mile-an-hour rushes for a guy who's not that fast anymore.
Who are those guys?
It's Jaden Daniels and Kyler Murray.
They have like double the amount.
Well, Jaden Daniels and Kyler Murray, they know how to fucking run
man,
fast.
I'm on your side this week.
Jalen Hurts broke
When
one
it comes
tackle
to
and he shrugged them off.
Rams.
It was
Or not
great.
Rams. Fucking
Commanders?
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Oh, I'm taking the Chiefs to win too.
Well, no, I'm rooting for them.
Oh, you
Oh,
make
you're
me
not
sick.
taking them to win either?
No, I'm taking them and I'm rooting for them.
You're taking the Chiefs to win?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Not
Mahomes.
surprised.
It's Mahomes, you know. It's Mahomes.
I just have the easy cop because Lamar, obviously, but the easy cop out just division.
yeah.
No,
So it makes me like so much.
No, I understand you rooting
makes
for the
me want to
Chiefs.
root against them even more.
I understand. Because now, the thing is, and I think this is where it's getting sad, me personally, this is a guy who's hating from outside the club. It's getting sad that Lamar and Josh fans are fighting, duking it out for number 2.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think if you want to say like individual play, I think both quarterbacks are better than Mahomes. But when it comes to like playoffs and all that shit,
Unless Josh does his thing this week, man, that's miserable.
There's no possible way this season Josh Allen can surpass Mahomes. There's actually nothing that Josh can do this season to supersede Mahomes as the best in the league.
Mahomes. No.
Exactly. That's why I say this whole season is a fight to the death for second best.
hasn't it always been like that? Or not always, but like the last.
Oh, I'm with you.
I tell you when
I'm with
you're-
you.
know.
4 Super Bowls in 6 years. Yeah.
But it's funny that like you're dragging out this Bills rivalry with because you want Lamar to be better than Josh, which I get. But it's funny.
John had a skedaddle because he has a men's league basketball game. But we have 2 topics left in the show, fellas. And this topic is talking about eliminated divisional round teams. We had 4 of them. The Lions, the Rams, the Texans, and the Ravens. Which one of these 4 teams is in the worst position going forward?
That's a tough answer because you can go a couple of ways with this. There are some fans that are going to be worried about the Lions because you're going to lose Ben Johnson, you're going to lose Aaron Glenn. And now you're left with the image of Jared Goff being horrendous and one of the main reasons why you're not moving on to the NFC Championship game. Fans don't feel comfortable that they have their franchise quarterback. You have the concern that we just went through a gauntlet of injuries. It cost us not only a Super Bowl run, but an NFC Championship type of an NFC Championship appearance. To me, I guess the answer would be the Rams for the sole fact of, is Matthew Stafford going to even come back and play football next year? Because if Matthew Stafford's not playing football next year, I don't have a quarterback, I'm screwed. What is our answer there? So I look at these 2 teams, and that's kind of the avenue I'm going at, because I look at the Texans. They have clear holes that they are going to address. I say going to. I'm manifesting it for CJ. Get him an offensive line. Do everything you can to protect him because he needs time in the pocket to let plays develop and obviously be an explosive offense. I think we just need to see what they do at the wide receiver position, whether that is keeping Stephon Diggs, him staying healthy, Tank Dell, the uncertainty of his injury, who even know if he plays next season. I think another clear hole for them is finding another skill position player to help aid that passing offense. I think this defense is great, though. I think the Houston Texans have a great secondary, and I think that they have a great pass rush duo with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. These are 2 guys that you can trust to be one of the most dominant duos in the NFL. They're okay with me. I think they have a bright future ahead. And then for the Baltimore Ravens, you have a 3-time MVP, Lamar Jackson. Your floor is making the playoffs. I think they're going to be okay. So my answers would be, in short, I'm going to take the Rams because of the uncertainty of Matthew Stafford. But he comes back, I am taking the Lions.
If I had to rank them, the Rams would be number 1, not only because of Matthew Stafford, but Sean McVay's also been very kind of wish-washy
That shit
about
blows
his
mine,
career.
actually.
He is someone that I would not be surprised that any given season he's going to say that's enough for me. I'm 39 years old, whatever he is, early 40s. I could go into TV and make just as much, if not more money, and I don't have to put in 15 to 17 hours a day. I could be with my family and my kids. So beyond Matt Stafford, I still feel confident. If you have Sean McVay there, you'll figure it the fuck out, whether it's with a bridge quarterback or rookie, whoever it might be. Also, Cooper Kupp sounds like he might not be back there. And to be fair, the second half of the season wasn't great.
Marcus Robinson,
Jordan Whittington, maybe. But they would be number one for me. Number two would be Detroit because of the coordinators. The talent there is unreal. On both sides of the ball, they have a ton of talent. But we haven't really seen what this team looks like at this capacity without Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson, in my opinion, is one of the 3 to 4 or 5 best play callers in the NFL. And with all of this talent, it feels difficult to screw it up. But we've seen time and time again, we thought there were situations you can't screw up, and coaches go in there and screw it up. I think Dan Campbell, though, is a good football mind. He'll put the best, people in position to have both offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator covered. But losing Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson could be a huge, huge loss. Number 3 would be the Houston Texans. Number 1, the division's a mess. I look at the rest of that division, and whether it's the Colts, whether it's the Jaguars, what team am I missing?
Colts, Jaguars,
Titans. All of those teams are a mess. I don't think any of those teams outside of the Jaguars you feel confident about really at quarterback, as much as I love Anthony Richardson, and as well as head coach too, right? Shane Steichen, Bill Callahan, and whoever the Jaguars are going to end up hiring.
Time's on the way.
You don't feel great about any of those positions in my opinion. And the team is still really good. I think CJ Stroud's still a top 10 quarterback, even though he had a down sophomore year. And the defense is elite. Will Anderson's a superstar, right? I don't think he got the recognition he deserved. The fact that he wasn't all pro is kind of insane.
Pro bowler either.
Exactly. Pro Bowl is a little, I don't really care about Pro Bowl because Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowler, but an all pro. He should have been first team or second team. He had a great season.
But the Pro Bowls go, King.
And Daniil Hunter is one of them guys too. But last to me would be the Ravens because, like Drew mentioned, the floor is so high. It's like a bad Ravens season is going like 10-7 and making the playoffs and being a wild card team. A good Ravens season is being the number 1 seed and going to the conference championship and unfortunately losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. But I'm least worried about them. Quarterback's great. Head coach is great. Defense second half of the year got really good. Todd Monken seems like he's going to be there for at least one more season. Didn't get a ton of coaching interviews. So as long as he's there as well, I feel good about the offense.
The Pro Bowl matters, man.
Oh my God.
Outside of a couple outlier years that we have dudes that don't deserve to make it, they actually get in. It's pretty spot on. Like the Pro Bowl rosters this year, I look at it, I think it's pretty spot on. There might be some misses here or there, but all those guys are deserved. And I hate how you guys undervalue the Pro Bowl.
Is Pro Bowl just fan voting?
A lot of it is fan voting.
Or is there more that goes into it? Do you know?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's just fan voting. That's what they promote the most.
Yeah, I was going to say, Patrick Mahomes did not make the Pro Bowl, man.
Well, he also didn't have a top 3 quarterback season in AFC.
He's the best quarterback in the league.
No,
it combines votes from players and coaches as well as fans. Each group is worth 1/3. So fans are 1/3, players are 1/3, coaches are 1/3.
So 2/3 is players and coaches. I think that's reasonable. I think it matters sometimes for some people like Mac Jones, Tyler Huntley, of course, that's just a whatever thing. But I think the team that has the worst future is pretty easily the Detroit Lions. You're paying Jared Goff a lot of money.
I mean, I don't hate this opinion.
And the repercussions of his contract can come to bite sooner rather than later, especially if the new OC isn't as good at he's not going to be as good as Ben Johnson, but especially if the OC is not the best.
Ben Johnson disaster class.
I don't
You don't buy into that?
They won't be as good, obviously, because Ben Johnson's really good. But the fact that Ben Johnson was there for, I think, 3 years. I think 2021 was his first year there. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, they all know what works. And whoever they likely promote, which I've heard is most likely it's going to be an in-house promotion than out-of-house, I feel like they understand how to run the offense. Will it be as good as Ben Johnson? Probably not, but I have faith that it won't be like a bottom fucking 10 unit or something.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of talent, but I look at what they're losing. They're losing their offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, losing their offensive line coach as well because he's about to follow Ben Johnson to the Chicago Bears. Kevin Zeitler is a free agent. Carlton Davis is a free agent. Who knows if they're going to bring those dudes back. And I don't think the Lions' offensive line, it's not the Eagles' offensive line. The Lions' offensive line is kind of vulnerable, especially in the interior. Frank Ragnow was really good and Zeitler was good this year. But losing Zeitler, you now have 2 below average guards at that spot. Your tackles are good. Penei Sewell is really good. Taylor Decker on the left side. He's solid. He's not great, but he's a solid player. Their offensive line isn't this stone wall. And when Goff gets pressured, he is susceptible to making some really bad decisions. But I think most of all, the defensive line is going to be good again. But the secondary kind of concerns me, especially the cornerback position.
I don't hate that
Carlton
opinion.
Davis, if he doesn't come back, you're planning on these rookies in their second years to take a step. But also the defensive line. DJ Reader's healthy, but Aleem McNeil suffered a season-ending injury that might lure into next season as well. Aiden Hutchinson, is he going to be back week 1?
He will be. He was supposed to be ready for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It just will be the same like explosive
Understood.
athlete.
I don't.
Zadarius Smith, he's older. Is he going to be an edge presence the same way that he was this year? I think there's a lot of room for regression. And you have Ben Johnson going to the Bears. You have the Packers, who are still a really good team. You have the Vikings, who are really good and maybe might get better if JJ is good.
Which is insane to think about.
And they'll have cap space to actually sign players to improve holes on their team
And Flores
if they
might
don't
come
give
back.
Sam Darnold a big contract. So, yeah, like there are teams that are getting better. I think the Lions right now, they have a 1 to 2 year window where the Goff contract isn't going to be super detrimental to them. But I think after this year, the amount of players they've paid from Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown to Penei Sewell to the Aiden Hutchinson extension to Aleem McNeil, sooner rather than later, their cap space, it's running thin, and they're going to have very little resources to improve the roster. The Rams are very young. Defensive line's very young. Maybe Sean McVay rides off into the sunset with Matthew Stafford. Maybe he finds his successor. Then I look at the Texans, very young team, bad division, great defense. I trust them, and I trust CJ Stroud to bounce back. And then the Ravens, you got Lamar Jackson. You should always win games if you got Lamar Jackson. And they have a very talented team. So the Lions, they're losing very integral parts of their team, and I feel like they have the worst future moving forward.
Yeah, it's tough. I think the Jared Goff contract is it's going to be a big test because it's fine when you have Ben Johnson and the offense is efficient and you're like a top 3 offense and you're able to move the ball. You can live with paying Jared Goff all of this money because you feel like with Ben, eventually you'll have to have some, you have to cut some corners, whether that's offensive line, whether that's not paying J-Mo or whoever it might be. You feel good because he's in place. Without him there, next season is going to be really interesting. How does Sean feel?
That's a good question. I need to ask him how he feels about next season. He was
Obviously, he was tight.
devastated.
Yeah, obviously.
He was irate at
Sean's
Jared
our boy
Goff.
who's a Lions fan, by the way.
And the thing with him, Jared Goff to him could do no wrong these last 2 seasons. It's always been in like the back of his head. Like he knows any given moment Goff can go off the deep and we're fucked. But he's always sung his praises. He's tried to put him in conversations maybe that he didn't belong in, but never over the top. And I respect it too. Diehard Lions fan, I'd be treating Jared Goff like the second coming too. However, now he realizes Jared Goff is untrustworthy. He just felt that the team was so overwhelmingly better than their opponents that they could overcome his deficiencies because he saw it happen not once but twice. I count that Minnesota game as a bad Goff performance that the team overcame and they were able to win the game. Obviously, we all know about the 5-turnover Houston performance that they ended up winning that game regardless. But next season, I do have to ask him his opinion because, Joel, I understand where you're coming from. He'll be a lot more confident than you. When it comes to guards and this offensive line, losing the offensive line coach, if that is going to be the case, obviously is going to be a huge bummer. But those are things that I can look for the Lions to address in the draft. And they've shown me no reason not to trust that they're going to hit on the draft picks. It's not going to be every pick, but they at least find 1 to 2 players that are at least impact players. This season, Terrion Arnold, hopefully he develops it next season because this year I am looking at that pick as not a great one. Terrion Arnold was a hold machine. He really couldn't cover that great. And when you needed him to do something positive in the biggest time of the season, he was horrendous. Terrion Arnold can't really tackle that well either. Not really great at reading defenses and trying to read quarterbacks. I mean, Terrion Arnold, I have nothing positive to say about after the end of this season. It's just the hope that he's a young player.
Yeah.
He's
Corner
on a great
usually too, I feel
team.
like takes a
Of
bit.
course, you can trust the development there, but I trust the drafting of the Detroit Lions enough for me to at least give them the benefit of doubt in certain regards.
And they put a lot on his plate this year. That's what kind of scares me about Aaron Glenn as a defensive coordinator, defensive mind in general. He plays man-to-man coverage a lot, and this is dating back to before this season. He's a man coverage heavy coach, which is why they drafted Terrion Arnold. He had one of the highest press rates in college football. And it's really hard to ask a corner to shadow and to cover people man to man. You look at like Quinyon Mitchell with the Eagles. Do I think he's a better corner? Yes. Do I think if he was put in the same situation as Terrion Arnold, where he has to play man to man almost every snap, he would struggle to and have an up and down rookie season? I do. Like Quinyon Mitchell is covering one side of the field and is responsible for that. And his instincts are really good because he played in that scheme in college. Terrion Arnold, it's very hard to guard college receivers and be dominant and then make that same transition into the NFL. Like, it is very difficult. Pastor Tan is probably the only corner that really did it, and he plays man-to-man. Sauce Gardner isn't even shadowing like that.
I'll give
even
Jalen
though I
Ramsey
think he
his
can.
flowers too, but that was a while ago.
But yeah, so I think, maybe in a better scheme, I do think there's room for the defense to actually improve with a better scheme that isn't so reliant on man coverage.
To just start playing zone.
Because if you look at the Commanders game, the one play that sticks out to me the most is the screen to Terry McLaurin that he took to the house. You look at how they were lined up. They were in a fire zone blitz, and they were overloading the right side, which means they left it was McLaurin and then two receivers in front of him. There were only two defenders in the vicinity of McLaurin and where that screen was going to go. You basically gave up a touchdown because of the way you lined up defensively, trying to play over-aggressive and blitzing. So I think Aaron Glenn has that type of problem. And this is the only year that the Lions defense has been top 10.
Can I ask you a question, though? Against the Commanders, don't you think it makes a little bit of sense to run that level or run that scheme? Understanding that Terry's the guy that you have to be primarily focused on. They scored 45 points, so this is obviously wrong in hindsight. But in the moment, you're going up against Jaden, who is that's your biggest fear, keeping him contained and making sure he doesn't beat you with his legs. You then inadvertently ended up getting gashed in the pass. Diami Brown ended up having himself a big game. Obviously, the tight end's getting involved. Terry McLaurin goes and has that big play. But when you're trying to play against Jaden, you want to keep him contained. You want to keep him in the pocket as much as possible. And then I think Amik Robertson getting hurt completely ruined the game plan for them.
And that play call, no, they lined up. The way they lined up, like, perfectly set up that screen. Like, I thought it was pretty bizarre. And it's not like Aaron Glenn has different game plans for different opponents for the most part. The Lions play man coverage against anybody.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like, it doesn't matter. Like, Sean McDermott, even against the Ravens this past weekend, he's a zone coach. He played man coverage on them, and he was blitzing Lamar a lot because Zay Flowers didn't play. Aaron Glenn, to me, especially over the last couple of games, you look at the Lions in their box score, the 49ers lit them up on offense. The only team that really didn't light them up was the Vikings.
And that's probably should have.
Yeah, and that's because Darnold had a stinker. But, Aaron Glenn's defense, this is the only year that it's been a top-level defense. Every other year, it's been the same thing. They run the same scheme.
To be fair, it wasn't that talented.
Blitzing. No, it
prior
wasn't.
to this year.
It wasn't, but, I feel like the best defensive coaches get the best out of your talent. Like, Brian Flores, nobody expected him to have top-end defenses the past couple of years with the Vikings, and he did that.
So last season, they were one of the best rush defenses in football. Obviously, the defensive line was the most impressive part.
But the pass defense was so bad, they were just average.
100%. Yeah. And then this season, they got slightly better in the margins. Obviously, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, two of the best safeties in football. But your corners, with how inconsistent they are, Carlton Davis, obviously a solid ball player, but Terrion Arnold, our opposite side, there's just a lack of consistency in that regard. I think this was by far the most talent that Aaron Glenn had. And most weeks, when they were healthy, we saw them dominate. It was when the wheels started to fall off, injury after injury. Carlton gets hurt, of course. Then you have Terrion Arnold get hurt. It was not hurt. Terrion Arnold now has to be the number one guy. Amik Robertson gets hurt. There was just so much going against them defensively, especially in that secondary. I don't know. I'm not gonna be too hard on Aaron Glenn in this one, for the sole fact I think he overachieved on the defensive side.
I just feel like this is the first year we're actually looking at Aaron Glenn as a great defensive coordinator.
I don't disagree.
Like, I think this is the very first year we're like, okay, he is a head coaching candidate.
I agree.
And because, it was impressive what he did. I'm not going to knock that.
Because of the injuries.
Yes, but the game plan also is so predictable that I think any offense that had a functioning coordinator with a brain was able to really light them up.
Yeah, when you look at who they actually limited this year, the teams that they held to 20 or less points, the two most impressive are probably the Rams and the Bucks. That was week 1 and week 2, right? Beyond that, the teams that held to under 20 or at 20, Chicago twice, the Titans, the Packers, which maybe this was a Malik game. I don't know. I have to double check. The Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Vikings week 18, which we've talked about, the Jaguars and the Colts. The teams they've allowed more than 20 points to, the Bills were 48, Commanders in the playoffs 45, the Niners, the Packers, the Seahawks, the Vikings, the Texans. So when they went up against good offenses or good quarterbacks, they let up some points, and that's expected to some extent. I've always thought, though, that Aaron Glenn, because obviously like this goes into, with the Jets because he's the favorite to be the head coach. I don't think he's as good schematically as a guy like Brian Flores, right? Like I think Brian Flores, what he does defensively is on a different tier, truthfully, than what Aaron Glenn does. But I think you just have to hope Aaron Glenn brings that leadership quality that the Jets desperately need. I know we're turning this into a Jets topic, at least I am, because I agree. I don't think Aaron Glenn is this mastermind defense coordinator. I don't think Aaron Glenn's a better defense coordinator than Robert Saleh was. Robert Saleh has shown when he had talent there, you had top 5 level defenses. You had arguably the best defense in football that were limiting the most elite quarterbacks for 2 seasons, right? And Aaron Glenn hasn't really been able to show that. Last thing I'll say about Detroit, it might be reactionary, but they also might have just closed their Super Bowl window. When you have Jared Goff on this contract, when you lose both coordinators, the Super Bowl window in the NFL is already short as it is. If you don't have an elite quarterback, if you don't have a Josh or Mahomes, Lamar, all of those guys, the window is awfully small as is. But now you basically had a season that feels like you just went to or lost the Super Bowl, because that's typically when you lose your coordinators, right? Think of Atlanta when they went and lost to Tom Brady, and you lost Kyle Shanahan, and all of these moves that go back to it, and then your quarterback doesn't play as well, and the offense falls off, and then your head coach gets fired. So it's just a domino effect. But typically you need everything to go right to win that Super Bowl. And of course, far from that happened this year with all the injuries that happened defensively to them. It's just difficult to see going forward. Can you find an OC as great as Ben Johnson was, to a lesser extent Aaron Glenn, who maybe schematically isn't as good, but he got the respect from all the players and they played their ass off for him? And then can you replicate that type of success you had on offense and defense?
And the Super Bowl, I feel like window was really this year, and that's why Ben Johnson came back. Probably he also didn't want another job, but now that Ben Johnson has left, he's went to the Chicago Bears. I think this has the potential to be a revolutionary hire for the Bears. And I kind of find myself biting my tongue because last year there was a lot of expectations on the Bears, and they let
Bears
down a
bear.
lot. Exactly. But this kind of feels different. I think Ben Johnson, number one, it was a no-brainer to take the Bears job. Top 5 in cap space, 4 picks within the first 3 rounds, 2 second-round picks, a bunch of young talent on both sides of the ball, and Caleb Williams, I think, is going to be a special quarterback. He had 2 stretches, one more important to me, where he flashed this season. I think the 3-game stretch against the Packers, Vikings, and Lions, where they're all top-end defenses, and he played like a high-end quarterback, especially the Vikings game where he came back and he was just making ridiculous throws. That, to me, showcased the type of potential that he's capable of. And I think Ben Johnson can turn around the Bears fairly quickly. Like, I think if they make the right moves, the perfect offseason would be, I'm a sucker for just replicating the rush attack of the Lions. I would draft Ashton Genty with that first round pick. I know they need offensive line, but I would use the cap space to sign Trey Smith and bring in Kevin Zeitler, who's a free agent. They have Darnell Wright, and they also have Braxton Jones, who Bears fans hate, but he actually graded pretty well according to PFF. You can manage with him. And I'd draft Ashton Genty. I'd draft a game-changing running back and try to have a rushing attack that can complement Caleb Williams as best as possible. And then you trust what he's going to do with the receivers on that roster. But the Bears have the potential to legitimately go from worst to first if they make the right moves with Ben Johnson.
I don't hate that game plan. Understanding that Ben Johnson is going to come in and obviously, I don't want to say hold Caleb Williams' hand, because Caleb Williams is obviously a much better talent than needing his hand held. But you want a great play caller that you can build with a high potential level quarterback like Caleb Williams. This season, we didn't see him be his best in the pocket. I think the focus for Ben will be cleaning that up, trusting the intermediate, trusting short plays. I think Ben will draw a lot more of those up. I think that was a big issue of mine too, where there wasn't anything easy for Caleb Williams in this offense. I felt as if Caleb Williams was trying to play superhero ball too much. That'll be cleaned up with Ben Johnson. I don't hate your idea of bringing in Ashton Genty at pick 10. My fear, not a fear, but I think my goal would be to protect Caleb Williams as much as possible,
Makes sense,
especially after being sacked as much as he was this past season. But when you have the cap space that you do, when there are O linemen to be had in the free agency market, this is a game plan to go ahead and build a nice foundational core around Caleb Williams. Now, understanding what version of DJ Moore are we going to get? What version of is Keenan Allen even going to be back? I'm assuming no. I don't think Keenan Allen will make a return back. Now we're going into next season with Rome Odunze as potentially wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, whichever type of leap he decides to take. Because there was a lot of moments where I watched Rome Odunze break free and they just could not connect. Whether Caleb Williams was overthrowing the majority of the time, especially on those deep throws, or just the two just could not link up. This is a huge hire. For one reason and one reason only, because of Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams needs an offensive mind, and there was nobody better to get than Ben Johnson. And the fear is that it is Chicago, and they're cursed, and you don't know what you can trust. We thought that this was going to be a great situation because all the talent that was on this roster, but the coaching really decided to take it and throw it in the trash. With Ben Johnson, I think it'll be completely different. I'm hoping that we see a revamped offensive line, but I really hope to see Caleb Williams progress as a pocket passer. Because if he can do that, and now we have the extracurricular of the high-level playmaking, the high-level off-platform throws that he can do that really only he can do outside of course, that guy right there. Now we really can start to have fun with the Chicago offense and the Chicago team. But I'm interested to see the skill position players that they have around him. Because I think DJ Moore's still great. I know that Rome Odunze has the potential to be great. But this offensive line and that infrastructure, that is what concerns me still. So we have to see the moves that they make. And at pick 10, it's not guaranteed that Johnson's going to be there.
I think it's funny that the biggest knock on Ben Johnson is how he left Detroit. And
Bears fans are sick.
People are acting like he
Lions
put
or
up
Bears
a stinker.
Fan? Lions fans.
Oh, I thought you said Bears. Excuse me.
Yeah, you did say Bears, but it's fine.
Lions.
I know. Yeah, Lions.
Thank you.
I will say this: like, they scored 31 points and Goff had 4 turnovers. Like, they had a 98% success rate offensively in that game. Ben Johnson did what he did. You know, if Jared Goff doesn't play like an idiot, they win that game pretty probably.
The JMO pick was bad.
Yeah, that was also bad. But also,
it's also
that's where
I'm going to just throw the ball away.
See, but why would you put him in that position to make that decision? His job is to catch and occasionally take a handoff.
You also know that when JMO got the ball, he wants to throw
Yeah,
it. Like, you do have to know as OC. Like, I remember Edelman told the story on his podcast about whatever trick play that they had, and it was covered, and Edelman said, I still threw it. Luckily for him, it ended up being a touchdown.
Yeah, Lions fans are trying to paint out Ben Johnson as like this terrible guy, but listen, he laid it all out on the line for the Lions, and he came in with a great game plan. You know, he had some nice trick plays. The Jameson one, yeah, that's the one that sticks in our minds, but the Jameson Williams touchdown was a great trick play as well, where they reversed back to him.
And the other one that they had where they handed off to, was it Gibbs, and he pitched it to Moran.
To Moran side.
Bro,
yeah, like,
I mean, we
Ben
know
Johnson
how good
did
Ben
his
Johnson
thing.
is.
If Jared Goff plays well, they probably win.
And I don't think Lions fans should take it personal. If this was on like the fucking Patriots, for example, right? Like where he had Caleb in a top 5 pick and all of this, like he would have gone there too, right? It's just, it happened to be Chicago. It wasn't like, I need to stick it to Detroit. I'm going to go to the rival in Chicago Bears and turn around their franchise and come here and destroy Detroit. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think, like Joel mentioned, you have all the cap space, you have draft picks, you have Caleb Williams, you have multiple weapons, you have some pieces on the offensive line, you have a defense that's talented. If Ben Johnson was going to take this job, what is he waiting for? Realistically, like, what else out there is going to pop up in the next few years that's going to be a better possible position? That's the only thing going against them is the division, because the division has 3 teams that are all playoff teams that have head coaches that we respect, that 2 of the 3 have quarterbacks we respect, even though Jared Goff isn't seen the brightest right now.
But they got
at least
the quarterback
in Detroit.
with the most potential.
But yeah, and of course you still have JJ McCarthy, who's a bit of an unknown, but you got Kevin O'Connell. I have a lot of faith that JJ McCarthy is going to be a good quarterback if it's KOC.
I can understand Lions fans being tight though.
Oh, Ben Johnson.
Oh, 100%. You know, you lost.
I'll be tight.
He took the job a couple days later. I understand that 100%.
What impressed me the most, and we haven't seen much, but I feel like Ben Johnson's number one knock was, how is he as a leader?
How does he talk?
How does he talk? Because there was like kind of weird reports throughout these last couple of years. Like, he's not the best interviewer, like just little bits and pieces you get from reporters. But the like 30-second clip that you got from the Chicago Bears today was like, He sounds okay to me. Like, he sounds like he could lead a room with people, of men. He seemed fine to me. But I think it's gonna be a really good hire. It's hard. It's hard to see a world that fails. I think he basically just upgraded from a Honda and Jared Goff. You got a Lamborghini and Caleb Williams.
Damn.
You gotta be careful with the Lambo, because it could break down every once in a while. The parts are more expensive. But if everything is in order, you have the play action that was so dominant in Detroit. You have the trick plays that work. You have the schemed open stuff. But Caleb brings you that extra layer that Jared Goff does not, where he can win out of the pocket. He could extend plays. He could, make plays down the field with his wide receiver, saying, go here, go there. I'll just wait time. I'll kill time in the backfield. But it should work. Caleb is great. Ben Johnson is great. The weapons are really good, and they have draft picks and cap room to make it even better.
And Caleb protected the ball too. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about much.
We won't talk about the sacks.
In the regular season, he didn't turn the ball over. He had one of the lowest turnover-worthy percentage plays. So I think that is also going in his favor. Did you guys see the staff that Ben Johnson is building out? Dennis Allen is about to be the defensive coordinator. Yeah. The Lions offensive line coach, his name is Hank Fraley, is about to be their offensive line coach. He's stealing him from the Lions. And Darren Rizzi, he's trying to get him to be the special teams coach. Yeah.
Who's about to be his OC? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. It does not matter.
He's like a 5-year-old son. He no,
for real. No, the Bears are building something good, and it's very hard to trust them. But
do you think,
I think
they make Rex's son the OC in Detroit? Have you heard that? So Rex was talking about it on his
Ryan.
Yeah, on the pivot, talking about how his son is working with Ben Johnson, and
really?
And Rex is saying how pick his mind. I don't know what his role is right now. I should probably look it up. This is just me spitballing off the top of my noggin. Rex was talking about how you're with Ben, one of the best offensive minds in football. You need to do everything possible to
assistant
pick
wide
his brain.
receiver coach.
Well, yeah, I mean that's not going up.
The receivers coach
that could go to OC?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It depends on how
know
much he's impressing. Those are the type of things that we don't really know about. Those don't get talked about. But if he does get promoted, then it probably means that he's doing a lot of good work in the building.
Yeah.
He's probably chipped in a couple plays here and there, and he's given Ben Johnson some great plays that he's used on game day. Like, I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it. It's going to be interesting to see, where the Lions go from here. But Ben Johnson is building a great staff, and I've been fooled by the great staff shit before with the Panthers and shit with Frank Reich. So, who knows? But I think even if this doesn't work out, it'll feel awful. But I think this was the right bet to make.
Yeah. It's all coaching it's kind of a coin flip. Like, it isn't, but it is. You know what I mean? Like, there's obviously candidates that are more qualified than others. But at the end of the day, it's like Ben Johnson should work. But, we don't know.
It's wicked that they lost, and a few days later, he's in Chicago's building.
He said, this is where I want to be.
That is insane, with all due respect. You didn't wait till the offseason? Like, I know it's your offseason, but, you literally...
Yeah, his season's over. He's done.
They literally lost 3 days ago. And you're already in
preparing
the other
on how to
building.
kick their ass next year.
That, I can understand where Lions fans look at Ben Johnson and say, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a Lions fan, I know that they probably don't think about the Bears because, the Bears are... the Bears, and they've been giving them the business these last few seasons. But regardless, now it's personal.
Ben Johnson said in that clip that this is where I wanted to be, and we all got to make sure that we make things easy on these players. Mm-hmm. The NFC North is a tough division. I know this division, but if we all work together, we can get playoff wins.
At the end, he said, "All right, everyone go back to work." That would have pissed me off. You just got here. Fucking ticket sales guys made 3,000 calls already.
I didn't know his personality was that.
Yeah,
more so like this is a great situation for me. I'm going to be very, very selfish, which I don't blame him. Obviously, it's the NFL. It's the most cutthroat, one of the most cutthroat businesses in the world.
If he took the Raiders job, he'd be an idiot.
No, the Jaguars, I thought was still a happy medium of you get an elite quarterback.
Maybe.
You have, then maybe Caleb.
Absolutely. But you don't pay Caleb. That's a big plus.
I don't disagree. You still have good draft capital. There's still money to be spent. It's just
division's light.
There's a lot in that
bulky.
favor.
I think the GM was part of it. I'm interested. I don't think we'll ever get full kind of background knowledge, but I'm interested how much say does he have in personnel. Like, I'm sure Ryan Poles, you're gonna have a say in every free agent we sign, every draft pick we sign. He doesn't have final say, but how much power does he actually have there?
Ryan Poles, He's moving me. This is 3 off seasons, 2 off seasons in a row. 3, yes, because the trade with the Panthers, getting Caleb and Rome, and now you got Ben. You've made 3 home run moves every single off season. Can we have it lead to something?
The trade fell into his lap. I think Ryan Poles has been average. He traded for Chase Claypool.
Can't forget that.
He traded for Montez Sweat.
And that was like the 33rd pick, I think, right?
Montez Sweat was pretty average this past year.
Last year, he looked like a fucking genius.
Did Jalen Johnson get extension?
He did.
He traded for Montez Sweat and then extended him and gave him a big contract, and then he underperformed. When
he also signed DeAndre Swift. Yeah. It was like the first free agent off the board.
Didn't hate that.
Oh, I do.
Considering hindsight, DeAndre Swift was great for them.
In fantasy.
No, in real life too.
He's getting replaced this year.
Right, as he should. Yeah. As he should, but this year he was their most consistent offensive piece.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Yeah, that's why I was going to say it was a rough game. It was a rough year.
That's literally that is the whole reason why I can't shit on Swift. As much as I may want to, the first 3 weeks of the season for him were pretty dog shit. He figured it out. And he was one of the few that actually figured it out for a majority of the year.
Yeah, it was a rough assortment of skilled position players this year, for sure.
The things should it have been? No.
But I think that's, play calling, Shane Waldron.
No, pretty terrible.
My stock. We're back up.
Yeah, Cole Kmet now he could take over that Sam Laporta role and stuff like that. I think Cole Kmet could play really well.
Cole Kmet's one of the most underrated players in the league.
Do you guys want to talk about either Josh McDaniels getting hired or the Cowboys?
Josh McDaniels getting hired actually not horrible.
It's not. I think the Brian Schottenheimer thing, I think that's pretty ridiculous. If the Cowboys actually hire him as head coach, I think they're taking unseriousness to the next level.
Yo, bro, that skill position room wasn't terrible.
What?
The Patriots back in the day.
No, I put a screenshot up. It was you had Jacoby Myers, you had Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, Jonnu. It wasn't great, but they were like 6th in scoring. They were like top 10 EPA. Mac Jones, Pro Bowler, Mac Jones, 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns. They went to the playoffs, got smoked, but went to the playoffs.
Was Ramondre on that team?
He was on that team. Yes.
No, Josh McDaniels, I think, is a good OC. I just don't think he's a good head coach, but not a lot of people are. Also, the Raiders are kind of where you go to die. That's why. There is no head coach that I feel like it would be smart for them to go to the Raiders. Like Brian Flores is a candidate, right? If this is probably going to be his last head coaching stop in his life, I would not take the risk to go to the Raiders.
And now they look like fools firing Tom Telesco at a great draft.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb. That was dumb. I know that I forget the name of the special teams player, special teams coach that ended up taking Gruden's job.
Basaccia.
Rich.
I know Gruden sucks as a person. He was turning things around.
Maybe.
Sort of, kind of was.
I don't remember. What was their record when he got fired? It was mid-season, right?
Yeah, it was.
They're pretty much done, bro.
He's a barstool for lifer, maybe.
It's crazy that's really going to be big.
He makes great content. Not going to sit here and lie to you. Like
he sucks, but damn it, he's entertaining.
He makes me laugh.
They were 3-2 when he got fired. So he only had 2 years. 2020 they went 8-8.
The infrastructure was there.
I'm bugging. 2018 they went 4-12, 7-9, 8-8, 3-2.
He was building something. The drafts were terrible.
Yeah, the drafts were
Mike
bad.
Mayock.
But yeah, I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. I really don't know what the Cowboys are doing, because even when they were showing it on whatever pregame show, it's like, oh, the Jets interested in Brian Flores and fucking Aaron Glenn, the Bears, Ben Johnson, and it's this Cowboys list of all of these, no disrespect, kind of misfits, where it's like no one else is interviewing Brian Schottenheimer, no one else is interviewing Dion, although I think that would be fun, it would be interesting. No one else is really interviewing Kellen Moore. It's a bunch of guys that are just have ties to Dallas. And I know the Jets did it with Rex, but that quickly became like, it's not happening. They're just hiring or interviewing guys that Jerry knows. That's scary, because this is not a team that can just have a whatever at head coach and the talent is so overwhelming, they'll just go out there and win. They need a high level head coach to do anything in the NFC.
I kind of forgot that Mike McCarthy is
got
available.
Fired.
And honestly, if I'm the Jets, I'd rather the Jets get McCarthy than Glenn.
He's not even getting interviewed. It's nuts.
And I was talking to Joel about this on the way here.
Not sure why.
I wouldn't hate Aaron Glenn getting signed to y'all. I wouldn't love it.
Mike McCarthy with Rodgers.
I think. Oh, that's one of the main reasons why that might not happen. However,
Apparently they're cool.
are they?
Apparently
Interesting.
the media or the reports that I saw were
the
that
media and
thought
Aaron
it was
Rodgers,
bigger
they don't get
than
along.
That's
what
true.
it is.
That being said, I think you need an experienced head coach, not a first-year head coach without a GM, because I need some type of linkage between the two. I need to know that your front office and your head coach are in sync with one
To
another.
be fair, Douglas and Saleh were in sync.
I think they were building something, though.
Maybe.
I think firing Saleh and Douglas, I get it. He made some bad moves, gave out some bad contracts, whatever. Saleh getting fired was preemptive. The defense was good under Saleh. They were building something. Aaron Rodgers in the offense couldn't figure it out. That's why Saleh ended up getting fired, because he couldn't figure out an OC. He couldn't figure out the offense. I thought they were building something.
We'll never know.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Pick Aside Podcast. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Pick Aside Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pick Aside Podcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.